Can you hear me, Josh? Josh, can you hear me?
Can anybody hear you?
Apparently not. Paul, can you hear me?
Nope.
Why don't we have communication?
Joe, can you hear us?
You guys hear me?
I can hear you now. I can hear you, Paul. Can you hear us?
Try unmuting it.
No, it has to be.
Sounds like an obvious.
I know, but it has to be muted for our system to work.
I know Sappa says that. Are you sure that's?
You know, maybe Zappa's not on yet.
Is it 6:30?
Yeah.
6:32.
6:30. 6:30.
Zappa is the one that controls the.
Yeah, because Zappa's actually not on. Right?
Well, they control the Sappa side of things for these microphones.
No, that's fine. That wasn't going to be my question. My question is, do we run the meeting by Zoom or anything else separately and apart from Zappa?
It's controlled both here and with Sappa offsite. Try.
You don't.
Just
The
unmuting
town
it.
doesn't control the Zoom portion of the meeting.
We do
Okay.
a portion of it.
Hey Josh,
Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, keep it.
Can
like
you
that.
hear us now?
Yep.
Josh, you can hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so we're good now.
Where is the audio coming from? That box up there on the
up on that.
stairs? I mean, the seat up there, the bench?
Yes, and then your audio.
It's a microphone here.
Yep.
Can that audio thing, does that have enough cord to come back here to the table? Because we can, or does that have a volume control on it? Because when somebody talks, you can like barely hear them.
Yeah, is there a reason it's over there?
Is there a
Yeah,
volume
yeah.
adjustment?
Yes, there is, because there's like a little bit of backfeed per se.
Well,
Or
it's just-
Josh spoke,
Right.
we hear a little backfeed, so that's why the.
You don't want to move that thing up here on this table?
But if they don't complain about it, they might not. It's like a very minimal like echo if it's up on. We'll see.
For us or them?
For them when they talk, but you know.
There's not, okay, but my question was, is there a volume control on that so we can hear somebody? Because before in the other meetings, people tried to hear and then we could barely hear that they wanted to speak.
Hey,
And just
hey
like,
Josh, can you say something?
Can you not hear us now?
I can hear you.
Okay, and we can hear you. That's what we're trying to do is make sure we can hear and you can hear. Okay, so we got that out of the way. I'll call the meeting to order. The first order of business is Pledge of Allegiance. All rise, remove your hats, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody, to the Weathersfield Select Board meeting, 2/21/23. Agenda review. Everybody okay with the agenda and the order it's in at the moment? Is there any reason to move anything up sooner? Hearing none. Comments from citizens, topics not on the agenda. Josh?
Yes, I do have something. Obviously, it's, my portion of my budget stuff isn't on the agenda, so I figured this would be a good point to inject a little bit and just have a moment of your time. I do want to, the last couple meetings, I do want to clarify a couple of comments that were made. Obviously, me as department head, with me being in control and in charge of our overall budget, that I need to work with the town manager. That has been happening, and I am at this point pleased with how that's been going. Also, as far as the bills being paid in a timely manner, with some hiccups with our accountants, everything's been going fairly good for my department, and I really can't say that there hasn't been any major issues. There was another comment that I want to definitely want to retract and make sure that the board realizes. Obviously, the two fire departments are the only contracted services with the town, and the rest of the departments obviously are part of the town. And I can say for myself regarding purchases in the past that we've had never gone around any type of purchasing policy issues to try to skirt around them as far as making large amount purchases and so forth. Every purchase that essentially has been anything over the $2,500 mark, I have always been in contact with Brandon and or Ed when he was here. So I just want to make sure that the board realizes that from our department and from my perspective of me being in charge of our account. One last thing, I strongly encourage that the board takes action and informs a small committee to go into both firehouses and do a complete audit of our equipment. This is something that I have asked in the past to be done.
He's froze.
And I think at this point, thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Anybody else? Comments, topics not on the agenda? Ray?
I just have one. I know we had discussed the possibility of a generator at the highway garage. It hasn't been discussed since the first two meetings there. I didn't know if that's still something that will be back on the agenda eventually or not.
You got that, Brandon?
I got it.
Okay. Thanks, Ray. Anybody else? Hearing none. Review minutes from previous meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of 2/6/2023?
So moved.
Motion.
Motion's been made. Do I hear a second?
Yes.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the minutes 02/06/23. Any discussion? Everything looks good? All those in favor of the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Town manager update.
Aye.
Thank
Delayed,
you,
sorry.
Paul. Gotcha.
All right, this is just another reminder of our town meeting on March 4th, Saturday, March 4th, at 10 a.m. is the school meeting, at 12:30 is the town meeting. We will not be using Zoom for virtual attendance. The school will already have their equipment set up and we'll be using Google Meet. The link is posted right on the front page of the website in an urgent alert, which is displayed in red. So you can simply click that link and then that will bring you directly to the meeting link for the Google Meet. It's also posted on the annual meeting posting and it's in the town report. If you'd like to join this via phone, you can do that as well. The number is 413-752-0273. The PIN number is 604-283-179. Again, 604-283-179. Our town meeting warning again has been signed, attested, and posted. Most of Weathersfield residents should have received their annual reports at this point. And if you haven't, please let us know because we have extra available at the town office that we can distribute. Ferry Road, we have acquired the list of residents on Ferry Road, and we will be sending them a letter this week to notify them that we'll be discussing Ferry Road again on March 6th. Projections were completed for the remaining 4.5 months of the fiscal year. These projections demonstrated that our net revenue expense would end the year in the red. I issued spending freezes, limits, and revisions in the general fund to ensure that we end the year closer to zero. We'll be continuing to monitor all town budgets and we'll be implementing additional rounds of budgetary revisions, freezes, and limits as needed. Our fire department contract expires on June 30th of this year. We have a meeting arranged on February 28th with both fire departments to kick off this discussion. We held a meeting on 2/16 at Martin Memorial Hall with the chairs of all 3 select boards and the select board representative to solid waste in Weathersfield. That included the chair in West Windsor, Reading, and Weathersfield. The highway superintendent, who also oversees the transfer station, and the director of regional planning and I. The committee reviewed our financials, reviewed our options, and voted to resolve recommend to resolve the year-end deficit of the transfer station, and we'll discuss that more under topic number 8. We have a lot of unregistered dogs in town, according to the town clerk. So if you have a dog that hasn't been registered yet, please register that dog by April 1st of this year. If you need help registering your dog, please feel free to contact the town clerk, and she can walk you through the dog registration process.
Any questions for the town manager on the report? Dave?
You mentioned earlier that you sent out a letter to the persons on Ferry Road and said we're gonna talk about on March 6th. I'm assuming that that is a Thursday.
No, that's a Monday.
Well, the reason I asked that was because usually the first meeting in March is Thursday following the vote and a reorganization meeting. There's really not a lot in the past history that we've undertaken for discussion because whatever, we reorganize and so forth. So that's point one. I don't have a calendar here, but usually it's the following Thursday from the Tuesday vote.
And that's under future agendas,
But no,
to set it for the 9th at 6:30.
So we
Which is
haven't
Thursday.
issued letters to them yet. I stated that we will be sending them, and maybe, depending on where you guys decide to place that agenda topic, then I would just put that date.
Okay, but I'm reading, it says March 6th. So your report just said March 6th, but
March 6th is a regularly scheduled meeting, though, for us.
It falls differently this year. There is a meeting right before the vote, so.
when is the vote?
The 7th.
That's kind of unusual.
It is.
But normally, I'm telling you what happens historically. I don't know, I've never been involved with a meeting the night before to vote.
And typically that meeting would have to be upstairs because this will be set up for voting down here.
Yeah.
So you won't be having a meeting down here.
Yep.
So would the board like to hold off on that meeting? We are under future discussion, agenda discussion. If you look, item 16, 15, is to set the date for the reorganizational meeting on March 9th, which would be Thursday of that week at 6:30. So if you want to just go to that night,
My second point would be, talk about what? We haven't really talked about it as a board, what we would be talking about in order to convey it to whoever the landowners were at the time. Because there was a variety of opinion at that meeting that we had. Particularly, the last landowner said, no, I don't want to do anything. I want the road to be that way. And the person that rents it said he wanted to give it all up. Well, that doesn't work. They need to have a conversation as a group prior to asking us what. They conveyed to us, I don't mean to get into a discussion on this, but he's got the Ferry Road on here for his report, and when he threw the date out. They conveyed to us that there were security issues, potential criminal issues, things like that. What we learned in that meeting, though, was, in fact, it's a Class 3 road. To the end. That's on us.
well, in the interest of not getting into a debate on this tonight, mainly because none of them are here, I don't believe.
No.
Brandon, where are you at on this with them? I think that's what we told them, is that we would come back and have a discussion with them
That's
on
what
that date.
And and correct me if I was wrong, I thought the direction was that if we were having a discussion, we would also notify everybody on that road. I might be mistaken.
What I'm suggesting is that I think that the March 6th or 9th or whatever meeting is too soon.
Yep.
I think that it should go to the second meeting or the first meeting in April.
And I'm,
That's my
and
suggestion.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, that's fine. I agree.
It's not to postpone it.
Can we
it-
set a
it-
date though, because this way we have enough time to notify them? I think that was one of the things that they requested, is to be notified whenever the select board was discussing it.
Well, if the first meeting is on the 6th, add 14 would be the 20th, would be the next one,
Okay.
right?
Is that- Hopefully that's not a holiday or anything, right?
So that would be the meeting,
God, I hope not. We just had one yesterday.
Well,
that would be the 20th.
I don't know.
20th?
Ray?
I just want to clarify, this meeting you're having is not the first hearing. It's just a meeting that you guys wanted to have to discuss stuff.
Well, but I agree with Dave that those people there ought to kind of get together with what
I
they,
agree, but I'm just
they're
trying-
kind
I'm
of
just trying
thinking
to
too.
clarify, this first meeting you're setting up is not the first warrant hearing.
No.
This is just a select board meeting to discuss some options. That's what you guys wanted to do, right?
Okay,
Because,
yeah,
because the purpose of the hearing would be to do something, and
Right.
that, and that hasn't been decided.
correct.
I don't think that the landowners have to be, they have to be fully notified about what entails leaving it as it is, giving it to a class 4 or something. I mean, I heard objection to a few things, so, I don't know.
Okay. So you're all set with that, Brendan, with getting,
March 20th.
yeah, and you might want to, in reaching out to them, explain to them that they kind of need to get their thoughts organized, to come in
Okay.
with some sort of presentation to us on what they think should be done,
I have
and,
another suggestion, in the alternative that they can't meet, because one of the persons live in Connecticut or something, 3.5 hours away, please, I would leave the door open to them to be able to gather their thoughts and then come to us. Maybe it won't be till April or May, I don't really know. I don't think there's any big rush here.
yeah,
My
well,
fear would be, we're holding a meeting, talking about something, we don't know what we're talking about. They come in and say, what are you gonna do? We say, we don't know, and we're all wasting each other's time.
yeah. Well, and the flip side of that is it's probably gonna take more than one of these meetings to figure out what we are gonna do and where we're going, where we're headed.
Would it be
No.
easier if I asked them if they would like to coordinate a meeting here with us?
With
Right
you
now. Yep.
and Ray, yes, and not get to the board, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, it is.
If the board's only reason for doing it would be to hold hearings, to either, to change classification of the road.
Right, and that would be a presentation coming from Ray and Brandon,
I don't know.
and perhaps the landowners.
So Ray, we can coordinate that meeting before the 20th. Maybe we can do it like the first week in March. And then we can write a summary report on the 20th.
I don't want to infer that the town wants to do something. I think that's
Okay.
wrong-headed. I really do. Because frankly, it's our fault.
Right now, the only thing we want to do is listen. Right?
Right.
For now. Okay. Anything else on the town manager's report? Any other questions? Fiscal year 22 audit overview. Brandon? I take it as, or Steve? I'm sorry, Steve.
Therefore, and I'm sure you'll find this absolutely riveting as usual. The idea was just take a few minutes of time and briefly just talk about a couple of the highlights from the audit before we go to the annual meeting. So I think you all had a copy of this distributed to you last week with instructions to bring it back this week. However, if some of you didn't, you've got a loaner, we should have a prize for the one who did, but unfortunately we don't. But
She gets a prize?
Yes.
She gets to buy us pizza for the next meeting. How's that?
copies,
I may not be here.
back at the end if you need.
I missed that.
Yeah, you'll be here.
She didn't.
You watch, you'll be here.
Were these spares left on the desks when we walked out last week or whatever?
We were supposed to take.
No, I took,
Yeah, exactly. Why would I take
I
this
took
off?
It's
mine
only
with
because
me,
it was in
but
my car.
Do I want to give myself waterboarding?
So you have a riveting 77-page audit report.
Yep.
Which you should keep by, I say this every time I do this, you should keep it by your bed, and if you ever have insomnia, read a page or two. You won't get any further if you get that far. So anyway, let's just go through, maybe I have a half a dozen or 8 different points I want to make, just to kind of show you some things that I think might be of interest to you. And then if you have questions, ask them while we go through this. And if I'm not covering stuff, because I'm sure you've all read it already, if I'm not covering stuff, we can talk about it afterwards. So, and I think you all know we hire an independent audit firm. They come in, they look at our books. They're generally accepted accounting practices, and they evaluate what we did over the past year, and did we meet those accounting standards, and then they issue a report. So if you go to page 1, there is a report from the auditors. If you don't read anything else, you should probably at least skim through this. There are basically 3 things the auditors can do. They can find an unqualified, they give you an unqualified report, which means you pass. They can give you a qualified report, which means you pass, but there are some issues. Or they can give you an adverse opinion, which means you really fail. So what you want to see is what we're going to see here in that second paragraph on the page. It says, in our opinion, the accompanying financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activity. So this is an unqualified opinion, which is really what we want to have. If you then move on to page 5, there's something called a management discussion and analysis. About 10 years ago, the group that writes the general accounting principles, GASB, thought that wouldn't it be great if the company or the business or the town getting audited writes a report that kind of summarizes the audit. So pages 5 through 12 is a report that we write that summarizes what we think are some of the main points to the audit.
Can I stop you for a second, Steve? I have the wrong report.
You got the wrong one?
Yes.
Oh, it is, Brandon.
Oh.
Those are the 1920, those are the 2021 reports.
I'm sorry.
That's why we had 5.
Awesome. But Kelly does not, because I'm glancing over at her at the same page.
She's the only one who has a clue about what I'm talking about.
I read it. You can
No,
look
I
at
don't
it
need
if you
to. I don't need to, but I'm reading along, and we're on the wrong pages, and we're on the wrong stuff.
Well, I can go
Yeah.
home early and we can. It's kind of boring if you can't follow along.
Dave, you just couldn't find the right page.
You
Just
were on
making-
5, which is the right, when I'm listening to Steve, and mine was on 4. And then I'm looking down, I'm looking at 2021, I'm saying, no, this isn't working.
I have to make sense of what I say when you can follow along, much less.
I just listen to the really fun stuff, which just means qualifying, it means great, perfect, whatever.
So is Brandon checking to see if he has other
Check and see if
copies?
he has it right. I mean, we can, while he's up there,
You can keep going.
there's also the last report. The audit ends with another report from the auditors, which is called a report on internal controls. And so they'll look at our division of duties, all the internal controls to make sure that they're acceptable. And there are things that they can find, problems they can find. The worst problem is a material weakness. The second worst problem is a significant deficiency. And then there are other items called management letter comments, which are relatively minor things they want to comment about. And so they found no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and they did write a management letter where they commented on 3 things. We have been, and you know this, we have been behind our bank reconciliations for a long time. We have an accountant for many months, we've caught up with those. But as of June 30th of last year, we were behind, so they said you need to catch up. We also were behind on our general ledger reconciliations. All the accounts in the general ledger, somebody should look at them and reconcile them on a monthly basis, so like we know what's in the bank is what's on the books, what's receivable for taxes, all these accounts should be reconciled monthly. So we have an accountant on board now, we're getting much better at doing that, we're not completely there yet, but we've made a lot of progress. And there was a finding about cash receipts, that it's a little technical, but based on the way NEMRIC works, we have some miscellaneous receipts that get posted into a miscellaneous revenue account and then have to get transferred to the account where they belong. And the auditor said, you shouldn't do that. You should post all your revenue directly to the account where it belongs, which makes sense. So we're gonna have to look at a cash receipt system and make some changes with that. So there are 3 items, relatively minor. We finished one, we're working on the other 2.
That piece of paper's not in here though, right?
No,
That's
it's not. It's
okay.
an
I was gonna say, I don't remember seeing that.
No, it's an attachment which obviously wasn't included when you
Okay.
did this. So we go back, pages 5 through 12, hopefully this time. That's the management discussion and analysis. That's our review, our synopsis of the important things in the audit. You can look at that if you want to. Then pages 13 through 16, we are not a for-profit business. We are a non-profit. We're not about making money. We are about stewardship of resources. We use an accounting system called fund accounting. So all of our monies get divided up into different funds, almost different pockets, if you will. So you're familiar, we have a general fund, we have a highway fund, we have a solid waste fund. I think you're familiar with those because of the budgets. We have a grant fund, we have a special, capital reserve fund. We have our monies divided up into separate pockets for separate reasons, and it's all about stewardship of resources. So what GASB decided a number of years ago as well is that you should put in your audit a few pages that kind of show what it would look like if you were really a business. So pages 13 through 16 are designed to give the voters a sense of what the town would look like if we were a business. So we have governmental activities and we have business activities. The only business activity we have is the solid waste, because that solid waste is, in theory, supposed to generate fees and revenues that cover its expenses. So 13 through 16 restate what the town would be like if we were an actual business. And on page 16, so it's about net position. You take what you own, you subtract what you owe, and what's left over is your net position. So did our net position get better or worse during last year? And if you look on page 16, the 3rd line from the bottom is a change in net position. And so both for government activity, in government activities, our net position increased by $163,000, which is generally good. The town is worth more than it was a year ago. The solid waste program ran a deficit, so their net position dropped by just under $13,000. But on a whole, our worth as a town increased by about $150,000 during the year. I'm not so sure that adds a lot of value to the audit, but they didn't ask me when they came up with it. So, page 17 is, in the traditional fund accounting way of looking at things, those are all of the major funds the town has. And it lists all of our assets, liabilities, and what our fund balances are. And I think that's a key thing to look at. And you folks, I know you've looked at it in the past. Look at fund balance amounts, which are down towards the bottom of the page. And it'll show you what the fund balance is in all of our major funds. And we have 6 major funds, and then we have this thing called other governmental funds, which is a conglomeration of 6 or 7 very small activities that if you go to page 66 and 73, I won't take you there, but if you want to, you can see what those activities are. They're a library endowment fund, they're a revolving loan fund, there are 3 small cemetery endowments. There are a bunch of small things that there's not enough room to show on this page, so they lump them all together. But the detail is at the end of the report. But the important thing to see on this one, I think, are the fund balances. And if you'll notice, there are 5 different types of fund balances. There are non-spendable fund balances, which you can't spend, obviously. There are restricted fund balances, like the highway fund, because by law, you can only use highway fund money for highway purposes. There are committed fund balances and assigned fund balances, which exist for specific purposes that either the voters have established or the select board has established. And finally, there's unassigned fund balance, which you basically can do anything you want to with. So what you have, and I think you discussed this in the budget time, you have a unassigned general fund balance of $29,175, which is sort of the money you can return to the voters or do something else with. Then, if you go to page 19, you get those same groups of funds. What you see are the revenues and the expenses for last year, and whether there was a deficit or a surplus at the end of the year. So again, if you look at the 3rd line from the bottom on page 19, you see for each fund whether there was a deficit or a surplus. For example, the general fund lost $34,645. The highway fund had a surplus of $4,000. You can follow that along on the page. Since we have one operation that is really different, it's called a proprietary fund, or an enterprise fund, the solid waste program. So on pages 21 to 23, they separately look at solid waste. Because again, it's a business type activity. In theory, the fees cover the costs. So if you look on page 21, you'll see the operation for the year of solid waste. And solid waste has a net position of about $36,000. $11,000 of that is invested in physical assets. About $73,000 of that is in a reserve fund to cover closure or purchase of equipment. And then we have a running cumulative deficit from the operations of solid waste of just over $49,000. And if you really want to get into the weeds, you can go through pages 26 to 56, 30 pages worth of notes that will give you a lot of details, gobbledygook, but a lot of details about the different aspects of the district. And you're welcome to read through those if you want. And the only other thing I wanted to bring up, I already brought up, which was on page 77, which is that final report that talks about internal controls and whether we have weaknesses or other findings. So that's sort of a brief look through some of the things that at least I think are important for us to point out. If people have other questions, I'll be happy to try to address them.
Any questions from the board? Brandon, you have any questions?
No, thank you, Steve.
Also, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll take those copies back.
No, you can't have mine.
Sorry about that. I have a couple of boxes of audits upstairs and,
What copies are you looking for?
Oh, you didn't have copies?
no, I
Bring
didn't.
him down.
Oh, all right, so.
I only have one that I,
I thought you brought
I
copies.
gave you back in 2021.
All right. So I went through the whole thing, even though most of you didn't have any participation. I'm not sure it was interesting anyway.
Wendy, you didn't have one either. I'm sorry.
Prepared, was he?
Well, if there's no further discussion, that completes the fiscal year 22 audit overview. No questions from anybody. Transfer station deficit discussion, which is,
Olivia, can you pull up the PowerPoint? Right, so I just put together a brief PowerPoint in regard to the transfer station. You can go to the next slide. So I just wanted to circle back around to what I believe our goal is, which is to provide a facility for residents in Reading, Weathersfield, and West Windsor to dispose of trash, recyclables, and other waste materials in a proper and environmental friendly manner and in accordance with the laws of the state of Vermont. Next slide. What's working right now? Well, fixed revenues and fixed expenses are in good shape. Permit sticker revenue is canceling out fixed expenses to some degree. In FY23, we will generate $131,724 in fixed revenues broken down across our 3 towns. So in Reading, and this is based on our fair and equal payment structure, their allocation is $19,250. Weathersfield was originally $61,000, but we kept the permit sticker at $50, so we'll generate $77,250. And in West Windsor, it's $35,224. The goal when we kept the permit sticker the same at $50 was to generate between $5,000 and $10,000 so that we could chip away at our cumulative deficit, as the treasurer pointed out during his audit presentation. What I'm projecting right now is we'll have a net positive of $49.06 for our fixed revenue expense.
Do you want to let him go through the whole thing before we take questions?
yes, please.
Next slide. What's not working? So our variable revenues and variable expenses are not in good shape. This is where our cumulative deficit is coming from, and variable revenues, punch tickets, and variable expenses are not canceling out. In FY23, we will generate an estimated $181,300 in variable revenue, and we will expend an estimated $202,000 in variable expenses. We will end the year with an estimated shortfall in net variable revenue expenses of $21,018. Go to the next slide. So we punch an estimated 48,639 times per year, or 4,053 times per month, or 935 times per week. The calculation is basically 170,000, which is our punch ticket revenue, divided by the $3.50 punch, and that's how you get that those estimated punches. We'll overspend on variable expenses by $21,018. If we would have to basically increase the punch ticket by $1.25 right now in order to end the year closer to zero. And the way this is calculated is taking the $16,607 estimated punches remaining for the fiscal year, multiplied by $1.25 per punch, which is how you would generate the $21,000. Go to the next slide. So what's the real problem? We're not charging for recycling, and we will spend an estimated $62,185 in recycling pickup and tippage and other recycling expenses. We offset this amount with the punch ticket fee for trash and C&D tippage and trucking, which will cost us in reality around $129,826 in this fiscal year. In other words, we're overcharging for trash and C&D disposal by that $62,000 in order to offset the costs. Next slide. Basically, if we don't act on this, the deficit will increase from the $49,204 to an estimated negative $65,000 this year, and that's just on June 30th. In the case nothing is addressed for FY '24, we're looking at end in FY '24 in the red, an estimated 85 to 100,000. I kind of broke this down even more. Every week we wait to increase the deficit. We wait to do an increase in the punch ticket. The deficit will increase by an estimated $805 a week. For example, if we wait to act until the select board meeting on the 20th, the deficit will increase by $4,028. Next slide. My recommendation is to increase the punch ticket by 75 cents. We still won't end the year, we'll still end the year in a deficit, but we're addressing it for FY '24 in advance. So like the amount that was projected will be resolved by the end of FY '24 if we increase the punch ticket by 75 cents. Next slide. On February 16th, the Transfer Station Joint Committee held a meeting that included the select board chairs in each town and the director of regional planning. And we reviewed all of our options. So we reviewed charging for recycling, we reviewed if we removed C&D and stopped charging or stopped accepting C&D or reduced it. And we reviewed all those avenues such as scales. And the committee basically came out and made the following recommendation. The West Windsor Select Board Chair made a motion to recommend the Weathersfield Select Board raise the punch ticket cost by 75 cents per punch and to have that go into effect on April 1st. That would basically give us enough time to provide notice and to also reconcile the punch tickets that we've already distributed to the various locations that you can purchase those tickets from. So we'd have to go there and count the number of tickets that they have remaining, and then we'd have to calculate the difference between the punch tickets that they have and basically give them the new punch tickets. The Weathersfield Select Board Solid Waste Representative seconded the motion. There was no additional discussion, and the vote was unanimous across the three towns as far as the Transfer Station Joint Committee is concerned.
You're all done? Dave, I take it you...
No, I'm not gonna question right now.
So where we're at, Brendan, the recommendation to raise the punch ticket 75 cents.
That's correct. And I just want to make the statement that I don't like coming before the select board or the voters or anyone in town with an increase in costs. But the reality is this is exactly what we need to be, well, exactly what we're projecting to need to take care of our expenses to operate the transfer station. This 75 cents still won't chip away at the cumulative fund deficit, which we still need to address and discuss in more detail. This only operates a transfer station in closer to a net zero until the end of FY '24.
Okay, before we go any further, are we all set with the PowerPoint? Can we take that down so people that are online can see us?
Yep, just stop the share.
Okay. Now, back to discussion. Anybody have any comments on this? Do I hear a motion? And anybody want to move on this?
Well, I do have a question now.
Okay.
What, you and I had talked before that meeting.
Yep.
Was any other discussion held? I mean, it's easy for us to say, or somebody to say, oh, you gotta raise the price again. I mean, I've heard that so many times in my life again, that I haven't been able to do that as a farmer, that I have always had to lower my expenses. I don't care what anybody's reason is. So it's always the last resort. It seems to be the first resort, either with a town or a school just say, well, we don't care, we're just gonna raise the prices again, and we're gonna have to deal with it. The jeopardy in all this, of course, with the trash is, smart people will pack their bags harder, or they will figure it out, or throw it on the side of the road, which is always a jeopardy or something.
Yep.
And I'm not saying I have an easy answer, but some of the suggestions that I threw out to you were, maybe we shouldn't be staying open for Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday.
That was discussed.
It was, okay, I didn't see any of the other point. Maybe, I don't know this, but I threw out the suggestion before, which would lower the cost. Maybe we should be using ARPA funds to completely pay for the loan that we took out for the compactor. It would be a long-lasting solution to a, conceivably a 10 or 15-year piece of machinery. And I don't know how that affects the annual, the operations of it. That was gonna be my first question. What exactly do you break down the costs to? So the sticker fee is, I think I saw the last thing, $120,000.
Yeah.
There are segments to what you use that money for, not the per ticket fee.
Can I respond
Yes.
at that point?
Yeah, if he's ready.
I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear that you talked about what I said. Maybe we shouldn't stay open. I don't know how many, because I think you took right off on that when you said, how many cars do come in there on Wednesday afternoon? How many do come in on Saturday or Sunday, or can we? I don't know what.
Wendy has a question.
Okay, just for remembrance, I thought that, and I could be wrong here, I thought that the loan was covered by, I thought that was something that all the towns were
They do.
responsible for, so if we used our ARPA funding,
We would lose out on 2/3 of the portion.
okay, that's what I want, that was my question, okay.
And that's a fixed revenue side, which is not where the problem is. The problem is on the
That's what I'm
variable
wondering
revenue
about.
side.
Okay, I just wanted to
Which-
clarify that, because I was wondering about that.
I did go to this meeting, and you guys were upstairs. And when I went to that meeting, I had talked to Brendan several times, and going into the meeting, Dave, I think I was probably in the same place you were. I did not want to raise the ticket price, the punch ticket price. In fact, what I was more in favor of was beginning some sort of fee charge on recyclables, $65,000 a year, that we're not charging for any of that. That was heavily discussed at this meeting about how that would change things. Would people bother to recycle? In my opinion, I think probably 80% would, because we're in this clean earth mode. So I think probably about, and that's just a guess. I don't have any knowledge or anything to back it up, but it's just my opinion that maybe 80% would continue to recycle. But the other side of that is exactly where I think Dave was going, is my thought coming out of there, and I agreed coming out of there, that raising the price was the best solution. Something has to be done. We talked about cutting staff. That's probably not, that could have exactly the same effect and reduce what's coming in, especially when we're not using a scale or any kind of measuring system to track it. If people are coming in with more, are we getting the right number of punches still? So these are the things that were talked about with these people. Paul could probably fill you in even better than I can, but I came out of it agreeing that the thing to do was to raise the price by 75 cents. And even in doing that, where I was headed, Dave was, I think, at my house, I'm probably going to start putting less in a trash bag that I pay for. I'm going to resolve this so that, and I told Brendan this on the way home, that I'm going to find a way that my price isn't going to change. And that means me taking cans out of trash and things that shouldn't be going in there anyway, I guess, that I'm not, because I'm not as on top of all that. I just throw it in the trash. So, but that means I'm going to take it out and I'm going to put it in recycling and not pay for it. So my bag size is going to go down, even though the price goes up. And I told him, you're not going to get any more money out of me on a monthly basis doing this. And I think
So then
they're,
how does that get to the end, which is going to be the same thing, even though the price raises, whatever? The state's got an issue too, because there's only one landfill right now in Coventry, and that is like way in the north.
That's a
So-
good point.
So you're right. People are going to think about, okay, I'm only gonna have 3 bags instead of 4. So it's gonna cost me 50 cents, but that's good. That doesn't solve your deficit problem.
Well, I think,
What, can,
Paul, go ahead.
sorry, I just wanted to just quickly, thank you guys for being there too, for all that, but, this is a larger systemic problem that we've got to figure out. What we've got is a short-term issue that we've got to fix, I think. Just because the price is, let's say, goes up on a punch ticket, doesn't mean that it can't come back down later once we've understood and made some better progress on how we want to go forward with this. I mean, we've done a lot of work in the last few years. We've come together as 3 towns. We've tried to figure out a lot of stuff, and I think we're in such a much better place. And Dave, again, I apologize. I just got to go on the analogy that you said about, as a farmer, you just don't raise prices. You just don't want to do that. But as a farmer, you don't give stuff away either.
Oh,
People
I
gotta
have for
understand.
40 years.
Well, but the thing is recycling. People got to understand recycling isn't as great as what everybody thinks it is. It's not free. And as you just saw from Brandon's presentation, I'm not saying anything that's not he already didn't put in there. We're overcharging already for C&D and trash to pay for that. And people are saying, well, if we charge for recycling, then they're just going to do something different with it. Well, I don't care if they stick it in the regular trash. Then we're going to charge them for it in the trash. If you close down the recycling station for a day, you're still you can still say, oh, well, people will just dump it on the side because I wanted to go there and I can't. I mean, you're never going to stop some of that. And I think short term, raising the sticker price 75 cents is going to get us in a better position. We need to have more conversations on how we're going to go through this and keep this, make this better for everyone in all 3 towns. I'm not saying it's going to stay that way either. And some of it's education. I think a lot of people still think, well, recycling is free. Why would the town charge for it? They're going to get it for free. You just saw those $68,000. Compost was $8,000 last year. I don't even know what it's at this year to get rid of. People are already upset that they got to pay for compost. Well, if it's something we can do, then you should compost at home. Then it's I don't know. It's hard because nobody wants to pay for anything, but yet. This stuff costs money, and all the numbers are right here. I agree, Dave. I don't think your idea about some ARPA funds is bad. I don't think we're going to come up with that tonight, or the next meeting, or the meeting after. And as Brandon just showed, we're losing $800 and something a week.
And Paul,
If we're comfortable with that, that's fine. But I'm not comfortable with that.
Paul, I don't think that $800 a week is going to change, even if you pay that off, because that's a fixed expense.
That's kind of what I'm saying. I think but the ARPA, what Dave is saying about the ARPA money, I think is great for going in the future and looking at how can we work like next year's budget or the year after budget or things of that nature. But then we lose, like I said, we lose the other towns part of that share for that loan. You know what? Like I said, we've done a lot of work and there's a lot more to go. This is a kind of a moving entity here, and especially, I mean, Alpha Waste and Casella and all these other places, I don't think they sat down and said, and I said this in my priesthood there, I'm not saying anything out of context here, but they didn't sit down and say, well, we shouldn't, here's their fees, here's what the gas money's costing, here's what the trucking's costing, that's what it's going to do. Fees are going up. That's why this is getting to the place that it's at. And like I said, I'm sorry, but people got to understand, your electric bill, your phone bills, this stuff goes up. The numbers are here. Yes, I'd like to find a better way, but I don't know if we're going to do it that quick. So, sorry.
Another point that has been discussed is closing it down for a day.
Yep.
And if we closed it down for a day, what would happen to those employees? They are
you might
they
lose
are
some. They
part-time.
live,
I mean, we don't know exactly how that would shake out, but I mean, if they're barely scraping by now and you cut their hours, are we going to lose an employee?
Well, one's part, one's full.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, there's actually 2 part-time, isn't there?
And I personally don't mind Mike, being on the record too, at that meeting, my proposal was to charge something for recycling.
As was mine.
I mean, I mean, quite frankly, you're going to go up with something you're already up with, and you're trying to play the shell game. You're trying to put money over here so people think this is getting paid. It's going back to recycling. We're paying for recycling.
And I think the end resolve of that committee was that we eventually are probably going to have to start charging for the recycling. But it wasn't something they wanted to jump into to make this solution now.
Absolutely.
Which is what Paul's talking about. They wanted time to be able to present it to the people and get them on page so that they understand, look, this is it's not free, which is what he keeps saying. It's not free to get rid of recycling.
A lot of it too is education. I mean, one of my recommendations is, and I'm not exactly sure how to do it, but is, like I said, the more people I talk to in town, everybody's like, well, what are you talking about? Recycling is free. It's the greatest thing ever. And it's good, and I'm not against it, but it costs money. It's not what everybody thinks. Just because they get rid of it free doesn't mean we get rid of it free. So
we are not getting rid of it free. In fact, it's a third of our budget. Ray.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Sorry, I yield.
Hang on, Paul. Ray.
This is like first aid on a wound, and the long-term goal is to fix it, right?
Yes.
When I first started discussing this whole three-town plan with Brandon and other folks before him, the goal was to have a committee of volunteers that would help us with recycling and there's people out there that are really passionate about recycling and transfer stations. We need to find them and get them involved long-term, and they might be able to help with education where people start composting at home. They know eventually maybe we'll sort out plastic and cardboard and find different vendors to buy more and pay more, because there's people out there that actually like doing that kind of thing. That's a long-term goal, and education about recycling and how much it does cost the town. We have some people that show up that have businesses, from what I can see, and they get rid of their trash at their business, and then they bring all the recycling because it's free to the dump, and they bring a trailer load of wine boxes. You know, that's a huge hit, because they pay for the $50 fee for the regular cost, but we're basically, other people are eating that. So that's another thing to address going forward, possibly. But right now, we need to do something in the short term, and I hate to raise the prices myself, but to cut the day, 1 day a week, those people are gonna show up on another day, and people are gonna be that much more busy on that day. I already have one employee that's at 26 hours and is barely making it. We still haven't. We've given him a little bit more money, but it's tough for him. The other employee is part-time. He works for us 1 day a week. So the highway department actually gives him 10 hours a week to keep him full-time, to keep him. So I can't absorb another employee to make another full-time employee. It's just, you lose one of those employees, and it sucks.
Move
So
to
my-
raise the
my-
fee 75 cents effective April 1st until June 30th, where the board will review. How's that?
I'll second that.
We have a
I'm
motion
okay with
and a
that.
second on the table. Any discussion? Paul?
No, I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Motion on the floor is to raise the ticket fee, the punch ticket fee by 75 cents, effective April 1st through June 30th, so the end of the fiscal year, to give us time to try to work out some of these other details. Any discussion?
I just want to say that I do like the idea of reviewing things, and maybe eventually, possibly, if we can figure some long-term goals out, that we could even bring that feedback down or make some changes. I agree, it's a Band-Aid.
We did that one time, and it was a big mistake. We lowered it, and it's not gonna come down. In fact, the more I think about it, charging for recycling will defeat the purpose and end up having more into Coventry, and we can't do that either. So I don't know the answer. I think,
That's a lot of what these people were concerned at
Yes.
this meeting, too,
yes,
Dave.
we, even at the school, I mean, they go to great lengths to have individual, baskets for different things. So, plastic, paper, everything, so.
One discussion point, something that I've been toying with for a while is trash or tin cans are metal. If we could start training people to pick those out of the plastic and the cardboard and throw them into the metal container, it might generate a little bit of revenue and get rid of some of the volume in the recycling stream. That's a huge process to retrain people to pull those tin cans out, but every little bit helps, I guess.
Before we started this zero sort, did we make money when we used to have to separate it separately?
Some.
Only some?
If you, the tin, plastic, and cardboard all went into separate bins.
Yeah.
And then the highway department would show up and take all the tin cans, put them in dump trucks, transport them to Keene or to Brattleboro, or they would bale them and they'd bring those bales places. So it kind of was a wash.
Oh,
You made
okay.
some money, but a lot of
Not
it was
enough
lost
to-
in hidden fees, so
Yeah.
you don't really get your money back to your highway department and all the mileage and stuff.
Wendy?
Just, even if there was a sign there, if I saw a sign at the metal thing, I would actually,
I would
Put my-
separate mine.
I
too.
would.
Yeah.
I mean, if there was just a sign,
Right.
I would actually do that. And if a lot of people did that, it would, I
We also
mean,
discussed things like returnable cans.
Yeah.
Possibility.
Let's talk about that some more.
so I like the idea of educating, like, because that would be a simple.
Anytime
That-
you
that
get the
was-
community behind the place and to realize what the true costs are, I mean, they can come up with solutions, and they can start working independently to help us solve our own.
At this committee, the discussion was if this went through this board, he's gonna prepare a pamphlet that's gonna go out to everybody in all 3 towns, that's gonna explain what's going on and what the costs are and why this is happening and stuff. So there, the first part of the education starts there.
You might wanna have like a
And
short
I'm
one for the
gonna
town
be
meeting.
glad to work with Brandon on that, so it's not solely him. Sorry, Mike. I don't want everybody to think that's all solely on Brandon.
Oh,
It's both
right.
of us together.
Thanks, Paul. Dave, what were you saying?
You might wanna have a, you might wanna have a paragraph or something to brace people at the town meeting. I mean, that's gonna be only in a couple of weeks, so
Mhm.
this will be effective April 1st, but you can say, quite frankly, that we're in the red and we can't maintain in the
Yeah,
money
Brendan,
loss situation.
I mean, the town meeting is a full budget discussion, and we have an audit showing us a cumulative deficit that is not headed in the right direction.
I don't think it should be long.
No, it doesn't, but I think Brendan could do a quick PowerPoint that can cover all this, faster than the one you showed us tonight.
We also discussed having a handout that you pick up at the transfer station, that'll, then they can pick a thing, I'll notice up out of.
Yeah, Paul, help, Paul, I can get involved with that too, Brendan. You, me, and Paul can work on that and see what we can come up with.
I think the feedback is just helpful, because sometimes I operate in a vacuum, so if I could just bounce, my thoughts about the pamphlet I'll prepare the pamphlet and maybe send it to people via email. You could just comment and let me know if any changes should be made.
Okay.
Motion.
There's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to raise the punch ticket fee by 75 cents, effective April 1st through June 30th, at which time it will be reviewed, signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you, Paul. Brendan, notify the other towns.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Can we, Bill's sitting over there, and I'm sure he's tired. Can we jump that one up? Rather than go
No,
Thank me later.
no, I was gonna move it down. Under,
I wanted to go before this. Throwing it out there. I got voted down.
police cruiser procurement, number 11. We're gonna skip to 11. Ray, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
All right, so we advertise an you can go ahead and take it, Bill.
Wait, you got it great, go ahead. Keep going with it, go with the flow.
We advertise an RFB per the purchasing policy for the procurement of a new police cruiser. On March 6th, we will review bids and finance with the board once we receive the bids back. I did get a bid in my mailbox today. We did release this on the 7th of February. We have a pre-bid conference on the 16th. Nobody attended that. Bids are due on March 2nd at 2 p.m. The bid opening will be at 3 p.m. on the same date with the town clerk, and we will have the bid review for the board on March 6th.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Do you have any type of pre-finance information?
So, what we did was the cruiser reserve fund that we have, I spoke with Steve and Brandon, and it looks like we're gonna have roughly 37 $1,000 in that account when you take into account the grant that we have. Did you discuss that $2,500 that was only done once, that had to be done?
Twice.
It's done twice. So we'll have 2 more from the grant, 2,500 allocated to it. I also spoke to Brandon, and we're trying to figure out, we got $7,000 in grant money in June of last year. It went into the police revenue. It should have gone into the cruiser fund. So we're trying to figure out how to do that. So that was an extra $7,000, which would put us about $44,000 is what we'll have for the cruiser. Speaking to a couple of them, unfortunately, with the prices, the cruisers have gone up. The Ford is approximately $43,000, $44,000, and that's not to equip it with lights. We're looking at, I haven't gotten a bid or a quote back yet from the 2 that we put out for bidding. I told Brandon today I would probably say between 9 and 10 is going to be what the outfitting is. When I did speak to a couple of our vendors, a Ford dealer had a car that we could have in about 8 weeks. A couple of the other dealerships I spoke to said we'll be lucky if they win the bid to get it by October or even December of this year, just because of the lag time. As I also said to Brandon, the one cruiser that we use as a spare, as a backup, needs about $3,000 worth of work to it that I don't want to put into it. Hopefully, if whoever we get the cruiser from, they can put it out to auction for us. It's a gamble. We could get $500 at auction, we can get $3,000. We did the same thing with the pickup truck where we actually got $9,500 when we did it at auction last time. So that's kind of where we stand. The cruiser that we want to replace has 114,000 currently on it with 7,000 idle hours. So that's approximately another 70,000 miles in terms of what the car would have on it. What we like to do, which we started when Ed was here, was we wanted to have a spare car for the part-timers, for details, for traffic court, for training, and the goal was to keep the miles down on our frontline cruisers so we don't have to continue to ask for cars every 3 to 4 years. What we did since then was set up the cruiser fund, which we're using grant money and other revenue to put into that account to offset the money that it would cost to get a new cruiser from the taxpayers. So that's where we're at now.
Okay. I learned a lot. So many times we've had discussions about the use of ARPA funds to leverage grant funds. Well, in this case, we've got the grant funds that kind of came in. We don't need the money to leverage the grants, but it's already there. Is it really any different? That's just a thought that was.
Well, I approached Brandon a while ago when we learned we could use ARPA funds that maybe purchase something, half of it possibly, towards the car, and then that way we still have money left in the fund moving forward. We can contribute the $10,000 every year, so the next time it should be fully paid off. But unfortunately, cars keep going up. It went from $38,000 last year to almost $44,000 this year.
I'm actually really surprised that it was 44,000 or something that you said. I expected that to be somewhere in the 50 to 60 range, to be honest with you.
By the time you get it outfitted, you're probably looking at about 52 to 53,000.
So, okay. Anybody, Dave?
Is this a car or an SUV?
It's an SUV.
So that is the danger of what you said. We've had 3 or 4 years here of running where we have been able to buy police cars, and I'll say that in plural, I think 2 of them, without going to the voters for a special article. So it appears now, though, that the point may come where the reserve account would be drained. So
Depending on the finance package, yeah.
So, well, if it doesn't, then it most likely, if it requires a loan, then I would be hesitant not to go before the voters.
I think,
So-
with reserves or a combination of ARPA and reserves. I like your idea about doing a combination of ARPA and reserves. This way it leaves a decent amount remaining in the reserve
Well,
fund.
but the danger with trying to pick winners and losers, and I just use that term loosely, with ARPA funds are, we will immediately, by doing that, we will immediately have a race to get in front, saying, me too. So there's some danger there. Look, he's in front. So I don't know. I don't know the answer. It's good news, and it's worth explaining at the town meeting that we've been able to do this. So, but we're reaching the point on all the machinery, and Ray just left, but the Fed's gonna raise another point. I mean, the stock market went down 700 points today. And the danger in that is the town can't borrow money right now for less than 4.25. So it's gonna go up to 5.25 or more, on top of the $50,000 price tags. And that's just the police car. We're not even talking about, you know, $400,000 and $500,000
$400,000 machines, yeah.
things.
And hopefully, you know, my recommendation would be let it go to auction.
Yes.
Because last time when we tried to sell the car, when we sold the Impala, it was, people would call up, you'd have to set up meetings, we'd have to go over to the town highway garage, people were dickering with the price. When we sold the pickup truck, we actually bought it through, they're no longer in business, Gateway Ford. We paid them a $75 fee for the title. They transported it down to the auction for us, and then they cut us the check, and I think it was close to $9,500 if I remember. And then we had it written that that money went back to the cruiser fund, and I'd ask the same thing, that whatever we sell that for, it goes back to the cruiser fund. Or the other option, as I mentioned to Brandon, is use it as, the town office can use it to drive around if they ever have to go to meetings or something like that. You'll probably get 2 years out of it if you guys drive it versus.
That would save on ink.
Yeah, but you're still saying we have to put money into
I
it
think-
to be able to
I
use
think
it.
For a police car, you do.
Oh, okay.
So what we have to do, because it's a police vehicle, it's a police pursuit vehicle, we have to maintain it. We have to make sure that it's up to par, because if we get into an accident or something, they're gonna go through it with a fine tooth comb, because it has to meet certain recommendations. And
I think from my point of view, it's best served to be, when you're replacing one should exit.
Yep.
This isn't an addition to find another use for something. So I think it should be a straightforward proposal, when we get this bid number, to consider it, I don't know what.
Okay.
And then the package of money.
Got it.
Now, if it goes over whatever we have in reserve accounts, I don't know the answer, but I'm just saying that normally, machines that are purchased generally go to the voters with a proposal. And of course, it's too late to do that on the ballot right now.
Yeah, that would push that out a year if we did that. That car, make it another year? And I'm not proposing that, I'm just,
it's got 114.
ooh.
I actually had him texted to me this morning.
No, that's okay, that pretty much answered the question for me.
Has
but-
114,343 on it now with 7,432 idle hours.
What about your budget? You said there was $7,000 that I think was in the general fund that was mistakenly,
So we got a grant it's the same grant we have this year, we got last year. They paid us in, I think, June 15th, we actually got the $7,000. And it was for work that we were doing, but that was, it accidentally got put into, ticket revenue, some type of revenue instead of going into the.
okay.
So the board would have to vote to, you guys can straighten that out, the board would have to vote to transfer it in a reserve account.
Well, I brought it up because Steve's here.
It's gone now.
Oh.
It's all rolled into the surplus from last year,
Oh.
reduced the deficit from last year. And if you want to resurrect it and bring it back and put it into the cruiser fund, you can, but it's going to be a deficit of $7,000
In this year.
And another line, yeah.
I know that's what he's looking to hear.
And we don't have it this year, so.
We don't have it.
If you folks voted during last year to put the balance into the reserve fund, then unfortunately, without an accountant, I would be the only person that would have done that entry.
Yep.
That information never got to me, which is.
I don't recall that.
But it's already gone.
I don't
And the
recall
audit
either.
says you had a $29,000 unassigned surplus. Well, maybe that should have been $22,000, but and you've already used that money to.
Offset next year's
next
budget.
year. So if we put $7,000 towards this,
The
there's
bottom,
gonna be a $7,000 deficit in this year's budget.
the bottom line is, it's not there.
Yes, it is. That's exactly right. That's the bottom line.
But what I
It's not
told
there.
Bill is that we would figure it out another way.
Okay.
What, are you gonna skip the dentist?
But I mean, the money did,
They're gonna drill for oil.
the money did come from the grant, and it wasn't assigned to the police cruiser reserve fund. So we do have an issue to deal with there.
Well, this will just get us with a proposal, whatever. We could consider it or not, or I don't know what. So let's
One other
let the
question.
bid play out.
We have a second car right now that we've kept. Is that true?
That's the spare car that has 172,000 miles.
That you using, now you're proposing to get rid of that one
That one's gonna go to auction.
and
The car that we're replacing is gonna become that car.
from that car, yep.
And
okay.
then, so that, we have two front lines. The one that I use and the K-9 are our frontline vehicles.
Yep.
The other one is our part-time officer car. It's a detail car. It's when they have to go to traffic court or something like that.
Okay, well, to Dave's point, one's coming, one's going.
Yeah.
So, just wanted to make sure that's good. Okay, so let's wait for the RFPs to come in, and then we'll see if we can figure out how to make this happen.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I just a quick question. I did miss, how much was in the reserve account for the police cruiser?
36,000. Well, it will be 36,000 when the SIU grants are transferred.
In April, yeah. April 1st, we'll get the last check for this year, so that'll put it up to 30, just under 37,000.
There should have been.
And what was the amount that was gonna have to be borrowed then? If
We don't know.
there wasn't enough?
We are waiting for the RFPs to come in for the bids.
So I guess my question was, there was some discussion about taking the money out of the reserve account and then draining that down. Is that the intention is to, because I know obviously in the past, not just pertaining to the police cruiser, but for all of our funds, even for the fire trucks, we have money gets put into these reserve accounts for these purchases, and then when it's time to come around to purchase a vehicle, it's, well, we don't want to drain that account down. And I truly never understood that when, if we have, the whatever amount of money into these reserve accounts, why are we not draining these accounts down to almost zero? If that means then we're borrowing less when we're paying more interest, and then that just means that from that point forward, we need to take and work on building that reserve account back up. It's just obviously we're just saving for interest over the life of that loan, and it just, to me, it's better taxpayer spent on putting money into the reserve accounts and using it that way than having to keep borrowing from the banks.
I think that's a Steve answer the question.
Well, if we just simply, we don't put enough money in the reserve, how many, if your vehicle costs $50,000, how many years is a police cruiser gonna last?
5 to 6.
So it's 5 years. So then we should put $10,000 per vehicle into a reserve fund every year.
Per year.
We have 3 vehicles, so we should have $30,000 every year as a contribution into the police cruiser reserve fund. And if we did that, and got it passed by the voters, because it would increase the tax rate, you'd never have to borrow for a police vehicle until the prices jump dramatically.
But they should
We should do the same thing with highway, we should do the same thing with fire trucks, or fire vehicles, but the amount, the cumulative amount we have to raise is gonna raise.
It'd be like a whole nother budget. Wendy?
But so there should have been 42.5, there should have been 42.5 in that police cruiser reserve account, because there was that lacking money, correct? So that's also created an issue, am I correct? That there was, I'm
Yes,
assuming,
that missing
I may be wrong on the math, but I think it was like 42.5, if that had been in there, so you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the fact is that what was expected in that account to put towards this cruiser is elsewhere, but that still seems kind of,
Yeah, when-
And the thing with, so our cruisers, what we tried to do when Ed was here was space it out, so every 3 to 4 years we were buying a cruiser. So it wasn't, when I first got here, we got a cruiser the second year I was here, then we had, the very next year, had to get another cruiser. Unfortunately, then we had the issues with the accident on the truck, so we only had one cruiser, which put the miles on it, then COVID hit us. I mean, it's just been one thing after another. So we're trying to get back to every 3 years to 4 years buying a cruiser, so we don't hit them back to back to back.
Wendy, you look like you still wanna,
Oh, no, I'm just thinking because of that kind of bothers me, that should have, you know, I understand people coming in and asking, starting a windfall of people asking for ARPA funds, but where I'm coming from is I'm wondering if that should be resolved, and I'm not even one that likes to, I'm not usually the one that says, hey, I think we should use ARPA funds for something, but I'm a little bit in this place of that there was an expected amount for that, and we're not talking about buying lights or buying things or doing anything, but I feel like that reserve account, somehow a correction should be made, and I don't ever like using.
I tend to
I don't
feel the
like-
same way.
I don't
To
like
be
to use
fair-
ARPA funds for anything, but I just.
Yeah, to be fair, this was a new grant that we did not have access to, I don't think, until last April. We were approached about this grant. And we didn't anticipate anything happening to July 1. And then we started taking on some work, so they actually forwarded this money. I'm not blaming anybody. I think what happened was it just came all of a sudden to us, and we took the money, we did one thing, we were under the impression one thing, and it just got lost in translation. It's nobody willingly tried to misappropriate the money. It just
No,
got-
I'm not looking to place blame, but I think what Wendy's saying is it probably ought to be corrected.
Mike,
Yes.
I just want to remind the board that we can't transfer money from ARPA to the reserve account.
Correct.
Correct.
So it would have to be done as a
Spend it on the
police
car,
cruiser.
yeah.
I understand that, but I was trying to figure, like, you know, if everybody, you were saying that this could start some sort of a, everybody, but I'm looking at it a little bit different. I understand that there may be a different way you have to go about it, but I'm just saying that, you know.
Well, that's why I tried to in the
Something
beginning.
for the cruiser to make up for the money that kind of got,
Well, that's why in the beginning I also tried to connect it to the grant in a, albeit backwards sort of way. But there were grants that were there, and we did talk about leveraging ARPA funds and use to get through grants and stuff. And it's not really the same thing. I got it, but you know,
It's close.
it's close. Anybody else on this right now? Let's wait and get the RFPs, and
Yeah.
we'll see what happens coming forward, where we're at, where we land. And thank you, Bill, for your time and all that you do for the town of Weathersfield. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Y'all have a great day.
You too, sir. And next is back to town meeting presentation. Brandon?
You want to pull that up, Olivia?
Thank you, Steve.
So I'm just gonna kind of skip through this. I haven't made it past the general fund yet and plan on getting to the highway fund and the solid waste fund this week. You can go ahead and skip through it. If you guys have anything that you'd like me to add from what we have right now, or you want to talk about, or do you want to see what it will look like when it's done? Because I don't think we have another meeting before town meeting.
I have a question.
Yep.
Go.
I don't think we need to go through
Okay.
detail. But, has anybody talked about what you're going to be the speaker at the town meeting that gives the overview to the different, you know, because the moderator, by the way, John, there's nobody running for moderator for 23, so I'm assuming there's a write-in?
I wrote in Wendy.
Okay. I'm just saying, that little bit surprised me, but the moderator will say, he'll read Article 1, and it'll say, shall the town vote for the general fund, so on and so
Yep.
forth, and then the floor goes to you. I don't know, I'm just asking.
I've
Oh,
done it
no,
the-
no, I think it's a great question, and here's where I was gonna go. I think it would be great for him to talk to the people.
I do too. So I'm just saying that, we need to get organized here about how this is gonna evolve. We're gonna be, for the first year in 3 years, we're gonna be at the school, which has always been down here and kind of sorting through online, little bit of chaos.
Yep,
So, no, that's good. I just wanna, because this is the last meeting before the town meeting, right?
it is.
We haven't decided that yet, but
Oh.
we're going to here in a little bit.
So yeah, I don't mind, I did it the past, this is the fourth one, but 2 of them were virtual. The first one I did
I
was,
have a suggestion. Talk slow.
okay,
And this isn't it's gonna come out as a criticism, I don't mean to, but sometimes you talk fast.
do I?
And, yeah, then it goes sailing over everybody's head. So if you wanna, if you say online, whatever, page 1, or if you can look up at the top, or whatever, I mean,
Okay,
I'm just making a suggestion.
Kind of like the telephone number and stuff at the beginning of the meeting. I didn't get it written down.
It's kind of important, it's kind of important though, that speaking of that, it's kind of important that we're not gonna be on Zoom, because we're on Zoom, right, on all of this, and now we're not, we're gonna be on Google, so that is a really big clarification right there. I'm hoping that this year, there'll be 100 or something, or whatever, people to come in to the school.
Yep.
Or whatever. For other reasons, there's a floor vote, which is always kind of
All we
fun.
gotta do is stir the pot. We could have 200 there.
Well, I've heard some comments about the budgets.
I have not.
Okay.
I have as
I've
well.
I'm the
heard-
only one that gets visitors.
Well,
I got
that makes you the pot stirrer.
No, I don't say, I listen. No, sir. No, sir, I listen and I have to take incoming.
Did you say you don't stir?
No,
Oh,
I have to take incoming
I just wanted to clarify.
from several previous board members.
Oh, dear.
Well, okay.
So you're gonna be the general fund, so I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The next step obviously would be a highway.
Yep.
After that's on, or, are there any questions? And the next one would be solid waste. So you guys have kind of cleared up the solid waste earlier, the presentation, which is really good. So those are the 3.
Mhm.
Do you know if, or maybe you can ask him tomorrow, or I don't know, it's supposed to snow, but
Until Thursday.
It snowed today.
Yeah.
I don't know whether Ray wants to say anything. Normally, I mean, any manager does an overview of what the budgets are.
So do you think Ray should give an overview of the highway budget?
No,
or-
I think you
Okay.
should.
Okay.
That's my take.
And if Ray wants a moment to talk to people, give it to him.
Okay,
But I'd leave that up to him.
Generally, somebody, and we always do, we give appreciation for what they do, and that's kind of an easier one to fit together, because their staff has been 1 less or 2 less, and now they're being paid more money to do that job, so that they don't get lured away to other jobs. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. If you look at the 3-year comparison budgets, it's pretty flat. It's like $1 million, $1 million, $1 million, $1 million, or whatever, if you just look
Right.
across the top. So,
okay.
I have a question, and that is the service award this year was done by the school, correct?
Yes, ours is next year.
And we will be next year, 2 years in a row, or just next year?
We did 2 years in a row, 2 years in a row, and now we're going back to every other year.
Every other year?
Yep.
Okay, so we will do next year, just so we have a mental note of that.
Okay.
I think it's always been reached out to see if they even want to do a joint one. There have been, if you look at the plaque upstairs, that's where we always start.
Okay,
So you don't get a repeat.
that's what I told him, but then he told me it was the school that was doing it, so. Okay, so that,
I'll circulate the presentation, Mike.
Brett,
Yeah,
just
email.
real quick, how many articles for the floor are there for us?
3, 4, 5.
So
Okay.
who is going to speak to before you give the presentation of the budgets? Article whatever 4 or what, I don't know which article it is, doesn't matter. There's one article that determines the business tax. Who's gonna do that?
He's doing it all.
Okay. So that would be one, and then the other one was the veterans. If it was me, I would reach out to DeForest and ask her if she would like to do that.
That's a good idea, and we do have a slide on here of the current reserve and the proposed change.
Yes.
And the proposed change is highlighted in yellow. And then for the business personal property tax exemption increase,
That's a really good slide right there. So
it's very
that,
simple, it's,
that gives the reasons, yep. That gives the reasons why we made the effort to cut it off at 50, right? Because, I mean, the basic reason right there is because 1 penny is, well, although I don't know that yet, do you have the grand list that we're gonna use? That's coming right up to be used. I bet it's gonna be more than 33. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 34 or 35. So when you look
That
back
would be
at the
good.
previous slide, the $24,000 is like 2/3 of 1 cent. That's why we didn't absolve the whole thing and just get rid of it all. And that was a request, when that thing surfaced.
Yes, yes, it was. Brendan, you're gonna be speaking to that article? The,
yeah, I'll speak on anything,
okay.
nobody else wants to speak on, or, you know, it's totally up to you and the board.
I would, when Steve and Josh and Bill were here, you know, we're at a little bit of a different time for people that are new to the board, but we've historically had, in a nutshell, I'm gonna go out on a limb here, but the budgets have been over budgeted a little bit, sometimes a lot. The board has opted at the year ends to do things equally with that money. And one of them is, we haven't bought a cruiser, for instance, a police cruiser, since I can't remember when, because it's been fully funded.
Sure.
We have done what Josh suggested, or Steve did. We have actually set aside money from the fund balances and targeted them to the reserve accounts in about July or August, after the 30th of June, and every year. You remember that? So, and for 2 years in a row, I think we took the fire PPE. We funded that a lot one year. It was either you or me making the motion in the second. It was like $20,000 in one fell swoop.
2 years ago.
So those things have been done rather than go to special articles because we had the opportunity. Now, don't get me wrong, we've used some to lower taxes too, because that's where the money comes from. So it's been spread a little bit. Now, and all of a sudden, though, we are gearing more towards having lower surpluses, meaning, and then unfortunately, the price of things has gone up. The last cruiser we bought, Bill's car, I don't remember it being above 35,000, that Dodge.
It wasn't, no.
Right.
I think it was around 32, and then plus the lights, I think we ended up at the end.
So it was an
at the
easier
bottom
buy
line.
than 50.
That's what I'm saying. It's a little sad that, you know, they're actually, the prices have gone up, but there would have been somewhere around.
We're in a bit of a problem because
Yeah.
by him wanting to buy that car now, you know, I wish he was still here a little bit, but I don't know that we can allow the account to drain down to 0. And that's what we'd be doing.
Yeah,
The reserve.
well, I think you have to look at the capital plan for the next cruiser.
Yeah.
And the one after that. Where does that line up? And start thinking about how you're gonna prepare for that on an annual basis getting there. And then from that, you can work your way backwards to what you wanna leave in that
We're a
account.
little off and he left.
Yes.
I just-
Yeah, but that's.
So who's gonna do the transfer station, Paul? Well, or,
I think Paul did it last year.
it'd be kind of fun to,
Yep.
is
I
he
think
still
that would be
online?
good.
Paul, are you still there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just had to hit mute, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still here.
We just nominated you to do the presentation on the solid waste.
All right, Brandon and I will talk about that.
Okay. I mean,
Aye.
we do need to break it up. We do need to break it up a little bit.
That's all it takes, 3.
All right, you guys do know I'm gonna be in a car in North Carolina.
We're gonna mute. He's gonna be in the car, he's gonna be gone. Oh, perfect.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
And Paul, you could give like the high level overview of the transfer station, and I could do the budget. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, no, seriously, let's take that offline, Brandon, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
All set with town meeting presentation at this point?
Yep.
4-year budget comparison?
So we finally have everything in order, and this is the document that we're gonna be working from moving forward. So they'll be in black and white, they won't have a ton of color. The colorful documents, we're really kind of working product, trying to get everything in order. But these are our financials, and, you know, we'll just add a year to it every year and be able to compare everything. Has everybody had the opportunity to go through this, or do you want like a full-blown, full year? I don't mind doing it, or, the most important page is the first page, which gives a summary of all of the pages that follow, and it shows our budget. Like, for example, in the general fund, it shows our general fund taxes, and it shows admin audited actuals and each budget from FY '21 to FY '24. Same with the highway budget. Does anybody have any like questions about it, or
Is this what is part of going to town meeting or not?
it's in the annual report?
Okay. Because, you know, there's always, and you know this stuff probably inside and out. I don't. I've gotten some surprises myself when you look across at the 4 years. There'll always be, you know, I'll enlighten you, there'll always be somebody that picks out a line and then says, what happened here? You know, I mean, so it's like the big surprise, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's always true. So, and I don't know, and so then you're caught a little bit in a mode of, how do I defend myself or not, or make myself look more foolish?
The good thing is this is the fourth budget that I've been a part with, the select board and the staff. So if there is a question, I feel pretty confident that I can answer the question. There have been changes to the budgets over the past couple of years, as you'll notice. We have the addition of the solar revenue in our revenues. You can also see, like, if you go into admin revenues, and this is really an important part, and this is how I landed at some of the numbers that we plugged into the FY '24 budget. The interest on current taxes, the audited actual is 18,000 in FY '21. The audited actual was 16,000 in FY '22. And then we budgeted 19,000 in FY '23 based on the taxes that we had delinquent at the time. And then we had the removal of some of our delinquent taxes, which lowered the interest and penalty that we would collect, so we dropped back down to 16.5. You'll also see special appropriation revenue in FY '21 of 43,000, and that's not the case for '22, '23, and '24. So I think those were kind of important pieces there. Also is current use, 75 in '21, 71 in '22, budgeted 80 in '23, back down to 71 in '24.
But all that does is displace the revenue from the state back to taxes,
Yes.
because the taxes are paid. It depends on who the entity is that pays them, so.
Right.
And, you know, as far as like the town clerk goes, she is seeing revenue decreases because a lot of services are now being provided online. And there's not, the payment for those services doesn't come to the town. So there is a slight revenue loss there.
You and I don't want to interrupt this too much, but you and I had a conversation the other day about, I think a grant or something that was going on with the town clerk, and that it might be a good time to work into that.
Yes, the digitization.
A pay schedule for online access, where when you want to, and he discussed it on like his transcripts and stuff coming out of college. When he needed to get that stuff, they don't give it to you. You got to go to the school, log in, and pay a fee, and download them and print them.
You do.
So I don't think it's any different. So we talked about that this past week.
Yeah, when I got the job here and you guys did the investigation, I had to pay for my transcripts. So I can formally ask for reimbursement now. I'm just kidding. That was a joke.
What'd you say?
Nothing.
I need to call Bill back.
No, I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
He said he was illegal.
Look, going down to the admin budget, you can kind of see the changes. If you look at the bottom line, I think the bottom line is important. Then you can kind of search through and see where the expenses have changed. I think it's important to note, like the FY21 audited actual, you see general fund HR admin wages of 72,000, and then in FY22 you see 54 and 30,000. That's because that particular year we lumped both salaries into that line, and then we broke it out the following year.
And that, therein, year over year, when we have different managers, they do different things, and then it's harder to follow. So when you go from, well, I don't even know, like 2,000 up to whatever, it's not fair to compare because whatever the definition had changed.
Yep.
3 times between then and now. So,
Yeah, but I find it easier having them broken out and having knowing what this is,
Oh, I
rather
know.
than having them all in a group.
so does anybody else. They just want to say, what is,
Yeah.
an apple, apple, apple. They don't want mix all over.
And you'll also see like IT services in FY21, the IT services line was 19,107, and then all of a sudden you see it drop down to 6346. That's not because our IT services decreased. It's because we decided to charge each of the budgets that receive IT services so that we know the total cost of operating each department. So that change occurred.
There, what I just said. It's a different line adjustment move.
But now you can find the total that you're spending on it.
Yeah.
Before you couldn't, it was sprinkled
Well-
all over the place.
Well, this one's all over the place because not before it would be lumped into one. They charge the general fund. Apparently, the general fund got charged for all the IT in 21. Now it
Yep.
doesn't.
And the reason it's important for each department to be charged for its services is so we know the total cost of operating that department. At least from my perspective, I like to know where the money's being spent.
I'm sure the other departments did not appreciate that charge.
They didn't. And the same is true for postage. We broke out postage and supplies and so forth, and we did a couple other things. But all those changes took place in FY21. So anywhere from FY22 forward, that's what it actually is broken out for each department.
Brandon, would you hold on? David, you take over for just a moment. I need to excuse myself for just a minute.
Yep.
Okay, we're done.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Perfect. Motion been made and seconded to adjourn.
But do you guys have any other, and always, if you have any questions on the budget, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to really go through this with you. Or suggestions, comments, suggestions.
Any other questions?
No.
Paul, do you have any? Is he muted or? He's muted?
He's muted. He's sleeping.
But can he unmute him or do you do that? Does he do that himself?
He does it himself.
Everything? Okay.
Paul, wake up.
Okay. Everybody all set?
Yeah.
No more questions?
No.
Appointments, I don't see any, right? There's still a planning board vacancy, but do you know when that's gonna be taken up at the next meeting probably? There was a person that was interested.
Yep.
Do you have that?
I do not, well, yes, I do have an appointment request.
Okay.
And basically what I told them is that the board takes up all of the appointment requests at its first meeting after the reorganizational meeting. So
Okay.
we're receiving a lot of appointment requests right now.
Okay, good.
Yep.
So you're.
Okay, what did I buy?
You have, we're in appointments, you have, noticed all the persons that now hold annual appointments so that they should be serving a letter of interest if they want to?
Thank you for the reminder. I will be doing that.
And anybody else, can you post that up online too, saying that we have a list of appointments that would be considered, they're considered every March or not necessarily at the first meeting, sometimes it takes another meeting, but, you should list on the website.
Okay.
Okay, we're after appointments.
Any other business?
Yeah, I have something.
Yes, dear. Kelly.
I went to the dump this weekend to make sure I profit.
Transfer station.
To the transfer station. I call it the dump. I don't care what I call it. This weekend they had someone steal signs off their gates. And is there a reason why their cameras and their Wi-Fi doesn't work?
Last I knew that his cameras and Wi-Fi worked. Ray had access to it.
He said that it doesn't work.
Huh.
So,
When we did the ARPA assessments, they were working.
a couple of years ago, there was an issue with Comcast, and I believe I'll just do a summary real quick. There was an issue with Comcast that town transferred services to Comcast, and then Comcast started double billing us for the transfer station. I notified Comcast that there was an issue that was taking place, and they found that somebody that was working there, because what happens is a representative from Comcast will benefit when they hook up certain accounts, especially municipal accounts. And in this case, maybe accidentally, 2 accounts were opened at the transfer station. And then that employee is no longer with Comcast anymore. And it resulted in us, they overcharged us and we caught it, and then they had to refund us. And somewhere along the lines, we no longer have Comcast service at the transfer station, but I thought that issue is rectified. I did reach out to VTEL to see if there was a possibility they could provide service there. So I'll continue to take a look into what our options are.
Mr. Miracle said that all of his signs were stolen off his gate this last weekend. The hour sign and everything. He says it's all gone. He says our cameras aren't working and we don't have any Wi-Fi.
That's the
I said I'll
first.
make sure I bring it up
Yeah, I
at
haven't-
the meeting.
Heard that yet.
I don't know, other than if you reach out to my daughter about the signal strength that VTEL, all they would offer would be wireless. So the option would be probably TDS, right? To go, do they have it up 106 North? I don't know.
I'm not completely sure. I know I did reach out to your daughter about a year ago, and then she emailed me back, and then I think it got kind of lost.
She's got, you can do it from home about signal strength anywhere, and then they say what wireless would do there. I don't know, though, the 1879 has that fiber that goes to that building, but I doubt that it goes clear up to the transfer station. I'm just trying to outlay your options for you.
And I think she did mention something about the transfer station, like VTEL doesn't currently operate right there, so it would need to be an extension or something.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I'm just trying to help you out and to say, I would definitely call TDS.
Okay,
That's all I had.
we'll take care of it.
Thank you,
Okay.
Kelly. Warrants.
So well, hold on a second.
Oh, sorry.
So the point though was, stolen property?
Yeah.
Maybe we should buy a game camera or a couple in the meantime, or
There
something.
you go. Dave, I was gonna say that.
Yeah, something, and they're not expensive.
Game
My other
camera?
question is,
Yeah, they put
My
them
other
on- they
question
put
is,
them
do
on
we
a
have an
pole there,
estimate?
tree or
Ray,
something.
just ask Ray.
Okay.
Yeah.
Warrants. Who wants to do the warrants today? Do I hear a motion to do the warrants?
Oh, I lost it. I lost it. I don't know where it went to. I don't
Page
know what I
30,
have.
page 31 of 49.
Did you get,
I don't have
oh,
anything.
it doesn't go up.
No,
to the thing.
I don't have anything.
I'll start
anymore.
off, how's that?
Olivia, can you,
I got lots of questions, but I'll start off.
You go ahead, you make the motion.
I make a motion we approve the warrants of February 21st, 2023. Let me see.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Well, I gotta do the,
I thought he had to do the whole thing.
yeah, I gotta
Thank
read the
you.
amounts.
Okay.
I gotta read the amounts first, right?
Yes.
Yes. General fund payroll, $14,718.84. Operating expenses, general fund, 35,003, is that 9?
Yep.
391.67. Highway fund, payroll, $8,152.75. Highway fund operating expense, $24,025.78. Solid waste fund payroll, $1,829.89. Solid waste operating expense, $999.20. Library payroll, $2,151.34. Golden Ridge culvert, I don't know why that's not on the highway, but, operating expense, $23,068.26.
Libby, it's not the right day.
Huh? I don't know what this says, ARPA, operating expense, $1,380. What is the last one, Brandon? Wex Bank late?
Yeah, so basically this was something that we included today because the WEX payment wasn't added into the warrant, so it's being added to the warrant late. And that payment it's not a late fee for 1166, it's an invoice that we need to pay for 1166. And I can explain that in more
Yeah,
detail.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, let him finish the
Yeah.
motion then.
Because, yeah, that's part of my questions.
Yeah.
Operating expense for Wex Bank, $1,166.83. For grand totals of payroll, $26,852.82, and operating expenses of $86,031.74.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the warrants. Go, Dave.
Yes.
Go first, 'cause I
Yes.
got one.
Okay, see, I wrote all these down that I had questions on, and then I left them all at home.
You got
North
3.5
Solar.
minutes.
3.5 minutes.
I'll go to the first one, page 4 of 5.
Okay?
A late fee on here.
Is that for TJ property
Yes.
maintenance? Okay.
What was that for?
So I did investigate this late fee, and basically what had happened is TJ Property Management submitted their invoice to the town, and they do our property maintenance for
Yeah.
the town. And the accountant didn't have a system in place yet to organize all of the invoices, and invoices were being misplaced. And for this invoice, we're not completely sure if it was misplaced or if it wasn't mailed in. Whatever the issue was, a new system has been put in place. So they're charging us a late fee of $16.75 to do that, because it's late. And there's a couple of other late fees on here, and I addressed them via email today. And basically what I had stated is, it's not fair to the department that's receiving a late fee. It's not fair to anybody to receive a late fee. But we've created, or we're in the process of creating, a line in the finance budget to keep track of late fees that are, this way it doesn't post to the person's budget. The accountant did respond and say, "Good afternoon, I take full responsibility for some of the recent late charges, as regrettably some of them were delays on my part. However, I do agree with Steve that if we further refine the process and system to the way he's laid it out, there would be only rare occasions to pay late fees." And then she explained her process that she's put in place at this time to avoid late fees. And I think part of it is transitioning to like a municipal environment, where an invoice will come in and it needs to go immediately on, like it's getting adjusted to the time constraints with the select board meetings. I haven't seen a lot of these, I've only seen a couple, so I think she's actually doing a really good job, but the system just needed to be refined a little bit more. And one of the things that I'll go back to is this Wex Bank late addition to the warrant. Suzanne is also providing additional level of oversight on the warrant, And this is one of the suggestions that Suzanne had made to be included on the warrant, but it didn't get added, and that's been addressed as well.
Next.
I'm glad to hear that. I mean, because I think it needs to get a lot simpler as far as transferring bills over to finance.
Yes.
Okay, when you go to page 3 of 5 in the general fund. Everybody there?
Yes.
Okay, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 separate notes with 1 check from Norwich. Okay, everybody on the same page now? Follow me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
There's some on another page too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a breakdown here of, but 1 check is issued, 226219. See it all? Everybody follow all that?
Yeah, it looks like a split check.
Okay.
Yep.
First of all, I mean, we had that presentation by our accountant at the last meeting. I do not recall that we signed off on this just to go ahead and let this all happen. Okay, that's point 1. Point 2, this, I don't find any, and you're gonna have to scroll down to find it, I don't find any Norwich Solar invoice attributed to the solid waste. So that's a little surprising because initially, and Brandon's got this thing in front of us, I guess it
Yeah.
was the original contract that was run through by Nate Stearns. I'm beginning to try to unravel the mystery here for myself because, and I think it's really important to know, because I don't want this is a 25-year-old project, and I don't want somebody to come in and say, gee, that was like something mistake, and somebody would owe somebody money or have to return money somehow, whatever. I want to get it right. I don't want to be right. I want this to be correct. So the transfer station has been left out of this with no invoice attributed to the solar from there. That is a town meter. I don't know why. There is one here on the highway fund that is noted on page 2 of 2 in the highway fund for an amount of $1,933.32. But let's back up and go to the general funds too, still. When you see the notes, I have an issue just calling this lump sum. I really want to know what the date starts from and where it goes to. Because remember, we were told at our presentation that the anniversary date was April 4th, and the credits or whatever the amount was going to was generated from there, from a point to a point. And then, so I don't like that description where it just says lump sum. But if you look at, and I asked Brandon today and I don't mean to hold it to him at this moment, but I really object to the third one down when it says that Norwich Solar is owed, there's 2 of them here, $2,855.63 due from the Ascutney Fire District, which happens to be the water company. And then if you look down further, there's another one from the water at $3,547.37. You heard about an hour ago Steve Heyer say the only business function that the town has is the transfer station. I don't want to see the water district involved with general fund bookkeeping. I think that, but that got me to another problem that I had. The original document that the town signed with Norwich Solar specified town-owned meters would be credited with this system. I am asserting now, I'm trying to finally unravel all this so that we don't get stuck, or the water company doesn't get stuck with a bill that it doesn't deserve, or the other way around. Neither does the town own the sites at the fire departments. Both fire departments are separate entities that have contracts with the town, and the water company is a separate company that is owned by the subscribers, of which the town is two, Martin Hall and the library. So out of the 200 or 300 owners, so to speak, of the water company, the town doesn't own the company, it owns 1/200th of the company. So I really would not like to see whatever the projects say, oh my gosh, this really didn't qualify, so you're gonna have to give us, thousands of dollars back. So there were 2 points that I wanted to make. One was, that money is different to me than what was being used and described in the fire departments, because the town fully funds the fire departments with tax money. We don't do that with the water division. They are a separate individual company, similar to the solid waste, where they generate fees for their services to their providers. This is where I think it's getting to the point of the contract where I was wrestling. Brandy, you weren't here either, but when you told us in your presentation 2 meetings ago that we were using as what the meters that you had in this were at 130,000 kilowatt hours.
Yes.
Yet the contract specified 16%, which is 80,000 kilowatt hours. Because remember, the system is 500,000 units.
Yes.
And I'm not trying to, what I'm trying not to do is have somebody owe some money here after a year or two of sorting out that doesn't do it.
Yeah.
Now, bear in mind, the presentation that we had, and I don't know this, what I'm asking to do tonight is, I'm gonna vote no on this warrant unless these are excluded still. I want more clarification. And I really would like to run by what I'm thinking about through, I don't know whether Nate Stern still works for us anymore, but to absolutely, positively, for once and for all, identify what meters were being talked about in the original agreement.
Okay.
And so, I just want it to be correct without having somebody say, wait a minute, that meter is not correct.
So I think,
So does
Well,
the,
I have a question, based off of Dave's presentation here.
I'm trying to keep track of all the questions.
Yeah, I've got mine written down, and it maybe, I stumbled onto it while you were asking this. Where do the fees from the water district go for deposit and accounting purposes?
Right.
Where does the fees, what was that again?
The fees from the water district, where do they go for deposit and accounting purposes? Do they come through the town?
general
Yes.
fund?
They do.
Okay.
Too?
Yep.
Okay, so the water district we're receiving the water district bill.
Yeah, but
And-
it
but
just
we're
wipes
also
itself out.
But we're receiving the fees to pay them,
Correct.
okay?
So the,
But they're
basically
not
the water
getting,
district
wait a minute, but
reimburses.
I got
Yeah.
that part. But we're not paying, they're not getting any 10% credits.
They are.
Yes.
They are,
Well, not just the pumping station.
the meters.
Not-
Their electric meter, is included in that system? It was included it was on
is.
that list?
Yep, it was on the list that I originally received. when-
Okay.
Yep.
No, not, because you weren't here.
Yeah, it was on the list on the document that I received. Like, I didn't
No,
create
no,
this
no,
list.
I'm not
Kelly,
accusing
hang
anything.
on. Kelly, hang on, please.
I'm not accusing anything. So that makes me cringe right there, because I really think that I understood that the town took over the bookkeeping of the water district, but it did not commingle with the general fund. There's a big difference.
So I think, I just want to go back to the comparative budget back when I first started. But I believe that even before we took over the bookkeeping, let me just take a peek here.
So if John Jones has water, right?
Yes.
From a system that's not owned by the town. How in the world can it get transferred into the town general fund?
So if you go back to FY '21 in the 4-year budget comparison, the water district expenses have been going through general fund and payroll, and then it gets reimbursed through the reimbursement town support water.
I'm just saying, if I'm on the system, right?
Yep.
And my bill is $50 a month, and I make it out to the town, then
No.
I make it out to the town, then how does it get deposited when I make
I
it
see.
out to the Ascutney Fire District, which is, I wish they changed the name to the Water District.
I did change it, I
really
did change it to the
No,
water
that- I
district.
was
We,
just gonna
we did change it to the
No,
water
no,
district.
I did, so, and Darren does too, because, you know, you get fire and water together.
I know, I hate that, but.
I know.
yeah.
So, but my point is,
I want to
it's a
explain
recipe
it.
for a disaster for the train to come off the tracks. If I say, I paid my bill and I made the check out to the town of Weathersfield. The town of Weathersfield does not own this system.
So what happens is all of the payments get made to the Ascutney Water District, and we have a bank account at Mascoma Bank, and all of the money gets deposited into Mascoma Bank.
Is it separate?
Yes.
It's separate.
Excellent.
Then what happens is because we do our payroll through the town, and the water district reimburses the town for that payroll.
That's good.
This particular expense is different. All the other expenses get paid for through the water district and the prudential committee.
Right.
This expense is different because it's a town contract and it's all absorbed under one invoice. So we couldn't like split off a chunk of it to the, we could bill, so what we would do is turn around and bill the water district for the amount that we're paying, or whether the board decides to do it or not. And then the water district would then on their warrant wash it with a check that we would receive as revenue.
I think I think
That's it.
for me,
It's-
So it
There's
is
a lot of complexities of this.
No, it's very clear to me. This is going down the road of when we had a former town manager here and we had just one big bank account and all the reserve funds were mixed up with the general fund. It
Yeah.
took years to disassemble that with the interest and the outcry from those people that had vested interest in the reserve accounts.
Yep.
This can go off the rails. And I'm just trying to make sure, for me, this is an example of it. If it stands, if Nate says, oh no, I think it is qualifying as a town meter, I just think the whole thing should be separated. I really
So-
do.
so
You're
no-
contracting your services in this office to provide bookkeeping for
Yeah.
the water company. That's it. So if you bill your hours to them and then they pay for that.
Correct.
I don't like the idea, that it's mixed up in general fund monies. And
And I'm
including on
totally-
this warrant where it says the general fund for the town of Weathersfield is going to, looks like it's going to front the money.
Well, but I think I do understand it. The bill, this bill is for electricity, not water.
Yep.
And that
I
bill
don't care
comes
if it's
to,
anything.
and that bill comes to the town, and the town pays that bill, and immediately sends a bill to the water district for reimbursement.
And the
Right.
reason, this is a new thing, because like with GMP, the GMP bill just goes directly to the water district.
Yeah.
So it's different. We could contact Norwich and say, hey, reduce the, for the town, for the Ascutney Water District meters, you need to bill them separately, and then we would never see it. I don't mind doing that.
All I'm saying is, when you said to us, it was a big surprise that when Sven signed that contract, and I'm gonna go over that because I don't know if I believe that he specified 16% we were gonna take off grid.
So I do have it tonight.
That's good. I'm just
It's not-
saying.
It's not 16.
Great. That's a problem, because we found some other things that were problems. When you wanted to sign this agreement, what was my suggestion? Run it by Nate.
So,
How deep
Mr.
do we
Todd?
want to get into the contract discussions?
I-
We're actually in
just
discussion on the warrants.
can I note a couple of things real quick, just very quick?
Paul, can you hang on just a sec?
Yes.
Thank you.
So I'd like to say, one, I gave all of this to our town council, and he said, I have had the opportunity to fully review the lease option, lease, and net metering agreement between the town of Weathersfield, Town Garage Solar, LLC, the tenant. I have laid my thoughts out in detail below, but the summary is that I am confident that the documents are in order. and I advised the town to sign the 3 attached documents that the tenants' lenders have requested. At that point, I called a meeting, an in-person meeting with all of the stakeholders, and that's when the agreement was signed back in February of 2022. Going to the rider to lease option and solar site lease agreement, I highlighted this for everyone, and it says, to the greatest extent practicable, 50% of allocations of net metering and credits under the net metering agreement are to come from Weathersfield Transfer Station Solar LLC, and the remaining 50% of allocations under the net metering agreement are to come from the Weathersfield Town Garage Solar LLC. So that's the rider. The net.
So that's a little weird,
It was.
because the transfer station never appeared.
It's still not there.
It's not even on.
It's not, there isn't even a hole in the
Not
ground.
here.
And in consideration of the inconsistencies with how the solar was labeled on the warrant, and I question the other things, I think maybe just another meeting, we should leave out the Norwich stuff until it gets straightened out. I think just,
You're okay with that?
yeah, because I don't like the descriptions on the warrant, where it just says lump sum. I
I
don't,
don't either. So I'm moving to exclude check number temporarily, 226219 from the warrant.
Is that okay with the second? I think that was you, Wendy.
Yes.
So I want to make sure that I got the right, the check is like all encumbering of what that was. I think it's one check and then it's got the description.
Yeah,
of
and
the
you find it
breakdown.
on other pages too with
Yes.
Norwich. Now, let me go to Paul. Paul had asked to come in. Paul, go ahead.
No, I'm totally with what Dave's saying. Let's just take it out of there and move on.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Paul. So we have a motion. Is there any further discussion on the warrants?
Well,
Do you have any
yeah,
other stuff
one-
that you want to
Yep.
exclude?
No, it's a little confusion because I don't think it's classified right, and I don't think it's in any hurry, so, I mean, Ray went home, but if you look at, I think it was added tonight, and I don't know why, and maybe, I just don't, it doesn't feel right to me. Page 1 of 1, where it says special revenue at the very back of the warrant, towards the end, it says 3 culverts, and it says that and it could cause a little bit of a stir here. We're already very nervous about the general fund. It says that the $23,068.26 is going to come out of the general fund, not the highway fund. And it's for culverts, for a Goulden Ridge project.
it does have 15-7-209-1722, which is not a general fund account number. General fund account numbers start with 11.
Where are you at? Okay,
Yep.
the 15-7209? Yeah, but the warning, which is the top of it, says general fund.
Yeah.
I don't think that should be.
I've been getting confused by that all along. I keep looking and I'm like, somebody says it's highway fund and I'm going through and I'm like,
Well,
but it says it's
but
general.
you know who picks this off in very good detail and works very hard for the town? Steve.
Yeah.
And he's gonna say, hey, we signed off on this, and I don't think, I don't know, Ray's not here. I don't think this is an emergency.
Golden Ridge Culvert, so that's on the cover sheet. That's not in the general fund. It's under the Golden Ridge Culvert, which is a grant expense.
But it says general fund.
On page 1 of 1 at the top of the page, for checking account 1,
Special
parentheses, general fund,
revenue.
I
all
think we're
checks.
okay there. I think it's okay there. It does say general fund at the top, but we wouldn't let it come out of the general fund. It would come out of 15-7-209-1722.
But we're the ones that are signing the check.
I see.
Well, and the check is going to be 226212, and that's going to come out of,
That's gonna come out of 15-7-209-1722, which isn't a
Which is
general
not the
fund
general
account.
Which is what?
It's not a general fund account.
What is it?
That is a grant account.
Well, but this didn't, I don't think we have the authority to change the wording up to highway fund, which is what should happen.
No, it shouldn't come out of the highway fund either, or the general fund. It comes out of the grant
Grant.
fund.
Not even there.
Yeah,
That's not,
it's really not, it's an internal, the fact that it says general fund at the top is not.
ignore that.
It's not a
Pay
significant.
no attention to the man behind the curtain. The account 1572091722 is
Is a grant
is a
expense
grant.
account.
Did this
If it had
change in the
11,
warning make time to warn properly? It got done at 8:30 this morning.
that's when this grant,
No, the change in the warrant got done at 8:30 this morning.
what changed? We just added the WEX,
Had a correction on the warrants for tonight.
that was for the
addition.
WEX, that was the addition of the WEX payment, so we would avoid late fees. That would be the WEX Bank late e-check 1986, 116683.
And by the looks, if this culvert was, this invoice date for these culverts is 1/1/23, so that's January 1st. So we're already 30 days over now.
More like 50.
Yeah, 40, 50, yeah, 50, 51.
Keep going.
50.
Yeah, I don't think
If
that,
the board's happy with the description of this, I just think it's
Well,
like,
I-
when it says general fund, I'm just doing the reading, that's all.
I'm okay if it's coming out of the proper account. That's what I'm okay.
It says it under the highway fund too, though. If you go, it says general fund,
I don't know why this is all saying general
page
fund.
2 of 2.
Yeah,
under highway.
this is something that internal affairs needs
See
to,
it?
I think that can be brought to them, and that's fine, but as long as the stuff is in the warrant, under the right, going to the right,
Account.
You're right.
that's what I care about.
Yeah.
So I'm not, I don't have an issue
You're
with it.
right, Kelly.
No, because they're all say that,
Right.
so.
And the account numbers is what, I mean, it's all important, but from what I'm seeing, it's going to the correct expense account number.
Correct.
Which means when the check is written,
Okay, I'm
it's
okay.
connected to
I don't have
that.
any more questions.
Okay.
You're just, but did we vote on the motion to hold the check?
Do we have to go back and correct the numbers that you stated in the warrant? Because we're leaving out the Norwich totals?
But they're all mixed.
They're all just one check, though,
They're-
to
it's
hold that
one
one
check.
check.
Yeah, you're holding one check.
They're not like 27 checks.
Oh, okay.
But there's
So-
a lot of different
So,
amounts.
so
in
that,
areas.
but that amount is coming out of the general fund, correct?
No?
So that the Norwich,
Well, it's being held, but if it was getting paid, it would be a general fund expense, correct?
it would be a general fund, a highway fund, a solid waste, and a Scotty Water District.
Hold
It's
on,
one in every-
hold on,
every
hold on,
column.
hold on,
I was
folks.
just gonna say one thing. It's a split check. When
Yeah.
you enter that one check in and you go down, you split it and you
Yeah.
put it, the amount to each line where it goes. It's one figure if you put it in your accounting book, and then you take that figure and then
And you split it.
And you split it. It's
To
called
your
a split.
accounts.
It's like a split deposit or a split expense.
Library, it's,
That was one of the questions, the first question that I had though, so when Brandon, when you just said that the Norwich has an amount in the solid waste, it does not. In this warrant, there is no.
and that's one of the reasons I'm uncomfortable too, is because when you said that, I don't see a solid waste fund account here.
Right.
Because the solid waste fund account is not 11.
And I'm guessing, and this is purely a guess, so when you ask Deborah tomorrow or the next day or whenever, if you look at the Norwich ones that are located in the general fund, you know, the 7 of them, whatever,
Yep.
there's a couple of them in there that don't give a description. It just says electricity.
That's what I had a problem with as well.
Electricity from what?
There's actually 2 bills in there for AFD2.
Yep, electricity for wires. Well, on the other hand, one of them does specify for library, which is, at least you get to know what's going on.
Okay, so Brandon, you're okay with the everything that's gonna get paid is coming out of the appropriate account?
Correct, and we're holding
Okay.
all Norwich Technologies.
Yes.
And we're holding all Norwich Technologies checks? Okay.
It's one check.
Just one
One
check.
check.
Just one check.
One check.
2219.
Payments, let me put it that way, payments through one check. Okay, motion on the floor, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank
Aye.
you. My hair's on fire, I swear to God.
I apologize for the
It's a,
disorganization with the Norwich invoices.
future agenda, this is where we're gonna talk about so you guys wanna suspend the meeting on, 3/6, which is the night before the vote, which might not be a bad idea. This room is not gonna be available. It'll be set up for voting. So do I hear a motion to, move the 3/6 meeting to March 9th, 6:30?
I'll make a motion.
Do I hear a second?
Yes.
Motion's been made and seconded to set the reorganizational meeting. And do you want that to be a full select board meeting, Brandon, or not?
What do you mean by that?
We have a full select board meeting scheduled for 3/6. We're moving it to the 9th. Is it just a reorganizational?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I think that's
Well,
okay.
look, how about this? How about looking back? No, because something might come up. I mean, obviously there might be a warrant
Have to do
too.
the
But how about
warrants.
looking back in the past about what happens on reorganization meetings?
Okay.
And then jump from that.
Okay.
And then but something else might come up that you don't know about.
All right, so
I was
we'll,
just gonna say, when we did the it was one, that's all we did is reorganize. We sat down here and then we all left. I was a part of that last reorganization meeting.
yeah, and that was all we did.
That's all you did.
For Thursday.
But reasonably, it could have been that we had a meeting the week before also,
Could be.
without looking at that. In this case, that Monday is our next scheduled meeting, and we're moving it to Thursday. And so there may be some business. So we'll worry about the agenda, on that. We'll just move the date to the 9th for the next meeting. And when the agenda comes out, we'll know what it is. Okay, motion's been made. Paul, you're good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Next meeting will be March 9th, right here at 6:30. Executive session, this is a board choice to go into executive session. We do not necessarily need to. This is only about a town manager reevaluation. I did a little bit of research. I downloaded some information for you to read and a couple of forms for evaluation. Now, there's one of these that I don't like. I don't know what, did we get back in here? Okay, this one here.
Are we gonna go in executive?
We're not,
What are we doing?
what do you want to do? We don't necessarily need to. I'm just giving you this information. We're not going to get into an evaluation tonight. And Brandon is more than welcome to be with us here, and so is Olivia and the public. This first handbook I found to be, to contain a lot of really good information about the process of doing an evaluation. What I didn't like is when I got to the very first question on their evaluation form that they give at the end of this, to me, it seemed subjective, and I think that's inappropriate. The whole point of their discussion is to be objective and evaluate people on their job performance, not personalities and personal characteristics. And the first question is, staff is professional and high-quality performers. Well, staff is professional is a subjective question, isn't it? To some degree?
Well, but you've got 5 people here, and you'd be dealing with averages. So you score, let's say, that if we had from 0 to 5, somebody might, an opinion, which is,
All right, so let's, all right, good. Then let's start by going through, take a look at that pamphlet there, and this one here. This one here, I believe, is out of New Hampshire, town of Weathersfield. No, no. This is like, I forget the name of the town. This one's from Vermont.
How did you come up with Dover, New Hampshire?
I just went online and was looking at the documents and reading through them and seeing, what were they presenting, what were they talking about.
I'm just,
This one gives a really good circle of how you should go about it. But this process that they lay out here would take months when you get into it. It's not something that would happen real quick. And it just discusses how the person being evaluated should know they're being evaluated, what they're being evaluated for. The public should be noticed that the evaluation is taking place. Everybody should be understand the criteria and the direction that it's going. It's just a pretty good read on what the process is. This one here is a little bit more straight to the point. It talks about the criteria and gets right into it, and I
Where'd
think
you get
it's.
this one from? Our town.
Huh?
Where'd you get this one from?
This one is also a town in Vermont, but I forget which town now. This was like
But
a
you
week
just
and a
had
half
the
ago.
Weathersfield, thing imprinted on the
I
front?
don't know how that ended up there, up there. That's not where I.
What was that, Mike?
It says Town of Weathersfield, chartered in New Hampshire. It's 20, New York, April 8th, Scotney, Vermont. So that's just on our letterhead. But that's not where this is from. I want to say it was Chelmsford, was it Chelmsford or something like that? I forget.
I wasn't in on any of this.
I know.
You're all by yourself,
But it doesn't,
sailing on a ship.
yes, I know, but it doesn't really matter where it's from. I don't care, I do believe it was from Vermont. I will say that. But I did like the form.
It's simpler.
And it, huh?
Simpler.
It's much simpler, very direct, categorized, and again, has direct questions. This one I have gone through with Brandon.
I do like this evaluation form.
I
I
was
think
gonna
it,
say, I like it.
I like this one, the one that has the
Keep it
our
simple.
weatherhead. But that's okay. Take that stuff, read it now. Here's the dilemma that we have now that we just created. We're not meeting on the 6th anymore. And there's a potential for members of this board, or one member or two member, who's up? Paul and Kelly. I think Paul is on, he's on channel. He's
on-
not,
yeah,
he's
he's
running.
You just signed off.
No,
Okay.
well,
No, he's here.
I'm still here for just a minute.
Okay.
I'm gonna sign off. in a
We're out of
minute.
here in just a minute too, Paul, so.
But I can also write an evaluation of Brandon if you'd like, or give me the form. And I'll fill it out.
I will get this to you. I'll try to do it, well, are you home tonight?
Yes, I'm.
Okay, I'll drop a copy of these off when I leave here.
Well,
If-
I wouldn't tonight, Mike.
Oh, okay, no problem. I'll get with you on it then.
Yeah.
But, how do you feel about when this gets done? Do the members of this board want to do this evaluation? And if you do, we got to kind of get into it, get going on it, make a decision which one we're going to use. We should all use the same one. Get through it and then get together, go through it, and then sit down with him. And that would, we don't have a lot of time to do
So in
that.
reality, you're gonna have 5, if not 6 members that are gonna be doing it regardless. Meaning if she's the only one that's being challenged, correct?
Yes,
So other than that, all of us would be doing it regardless.
yes.
Can,
I'm okay, whatever you guys want to do. I just, Kelly's been here, if she's not, reelected, she doesn't get the opportunity to, unless you want to extend that to her and allow her to do it. She's been working with us. And maybe it's appropriate to have her do it anyway, and turn it in, and not so appropriate for a new sitting
Well, that-
member that hasn't been working with the board. So maybe we continue our conversation. Dave, what do you feel about that?
That's probably correct.
The best thing to do? Yeah, okay. So why don't we do it that way? Then we don't have to rush quite as much. I would like to throw this out there. I feel I've dodged a bullet this year. Because he told me he did not want us to do a compensatory change in his salary this year. He told me that, I knew that. But doing this at this point in time, following the budget process, is not really fair to anyone, whether it's this board or the person being evaluated. This needs to be done just prior to entering into the budget. So I'd like to propose at some point in time, we take a look at the town manager's either contract or something and put it in there somewhere so everybody knows.
Oh, I think it's probably there's some language in there. I mean, when you first got here, you told me that you had every other month or something at
every
Pembroke.
3 months, we had just a,
No, I think there's
Yeah.
some language in there that says.
But I think that an annual review should be documented, that it needs to be done like, I don't think July is good. You just finished and you're dealing with some other stuff right there. August, September, that's about, by the end of September, we're starting the budget. So by that period in time, we should have sat down and had an evaluation, I think, just to be fair. So that when you
I
go
don't
in.
think it necessarily has to be done annually. I mean, when things come up, I think it's really important for any town manager to learn what whether or not he has the backing of the board, or whether there's gonna be a little bit of whatever going on, or whatever's going on. I don't think that once a year is limited to knowing what is going on. And I don't
think so either.
I don't have
Dave.
any particular time that's better than another. I don't see any problem with doing it whenever. I don't care about budgets or anything else going on.
Well, the other thing is if you go through one of these things with the proposal of a compensatory change, an increase, then you're gonna need that for your budget. You wouldn't wanna do it after the budget, then say, well, we'll give you that next year. Is that
hold on.
fair?
Well, yeah, but that happened, that happened before. So, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I guess I'm just trying to, what is a fair process for this?
I think with both parties, and I'm saying this if I wasn't a board member or Brandon was not the town manager, I think taking the job of town manager, they fully understand that they're going to have times when they're gonna have a conversation with the board about the job performance. I think that's, if they don't understand that, then they didn't know when they applied, because it's pretty well spelled out there.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's limited to one time. I don't think it's limited to after the budget or before the budget or before Easter or at Christmas. I think I think it should happen a couple times a year, so that way it really limits the opportunity for separation. It keeps parties together.
Okay, and would you want to use a process like this twice a year?
We've always had these kind of, scorecards.
Kind of guidelines.
In a general sense, some of it is gonna be subjective, what you think. Outreach to community, outgoing, accessibility. I mean, I don't know. There's like a broad array of subjects without getting, pointed like, I wish you were blonde. Or, you know what I mean?
I think this one's pretty
Just
simplistic.
Rearranged.
I mean, it's like,
This one is pretty straightforward.
Next day I
Yeah.
go get my hair dyed.
I think it, right.
I'm gonna get mine purple.
Okay,
So
all right.
I think something that's simpler, and if you wanna, like, all of a sudden you decide at Christmas, you'd like to throw it at us, then whatever. But I'd keep it really simple, especially if you are gonna do it, a couple times a year or once a year.
If you look at this scorecard, it's probably gonna say from 1 to 5 or whatever when you rank them.
It is.
If five people, if one person, and it's very possible that somebody says, I'm elated about whatever the job is doing, and I give them 5, and then there's another person saying 3, okay. That when you divide those 5 and then you get your average,
And that's
it
what-
gives the manager the thing saying whatever it is, 4.1 or whatever.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
whatever it is.
I was just gonna say, pretty similar to what he's saying is, I just like the idea, if everybody's giving a number,
Yeah.
and one thing stands out, just like on a budget, oh, okay, maybe that's one thing that needs to be worked on. That's a great idea,
and
but you gotta keep it simple.
You would hope that the 5 people with all of our different philosophies or different composure or whatever, that 1 or 2 things would really strike out as either being really strong or really needing improvement.
Yeah,
You would hope that
that
would
would be
happen.
the thing that would,
Yes.
Okay. All right, so you happy with what you're hearing over there?
Yeah, I think it's a good process to have in place, and
Yep.
I agree with Dave's comment about if people know where they stand, like being evaluated once or twice a year, it prevents that separation, because if you let issues linger, or if the manager doesn't know he's doing a good job,
Or he doesn't know he's doing something wrong?
yeah, if he doesn't know,
or
he or
just
she.
just simply the fact that you can be doing a great job, but if this one out of all these questions, you see something standing out in that line.
Then you can
that
talk
gets-
about it.
Then, yeah.
Yeah,
And then-
okay.
And then the manager knows what to work on, and I'm trying to talk like I'm not the town manager.
Exactly. That's
You
what
know.
you wanna do.
All right.
That's just what you wanna do. Talk like you're not doing that. You
So,
wanna do what you.
so let's wait and see what that, meeting on the 9th looks like. If there's not a lot of stuff on there, maybe we'll go into executive session and put these together. Let's try to have it ready for that. and then that way we can put it together, do our averaging.
I'm
and then
perfectly
we'll
fine,
set up a
I'm
meeting with
perfectly
him.
fine with Kelly participating.
Oh,
either
absolutely.
way,
Yes.
okay? So, what I think ought to happen is, if you're gonna accept this one as being the one,
Yeah.
then I don't have any problem with the board members filling out these numbers,
Yeah.
and then you have it ready for
Yeah.
whatever you want to talk
I
about.
was just
And if
saying-
you have an added question on there that you think is not absent on there, put it on there.
Okay. I'm good with that. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't even
And
read it,
yes,
so I
you
don't know
are
what's
gonna
on it.
participate in this.
no, but it's,
Yes.
it's what you said, 1 through 5, everybody fills out, there's a whole bunch of questions.
No, I meant the
and-
topics.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's say, I didn't even look at it, but
Yeah.
let's say, finance. What do you know, 1 being weak, 5 being strong, or something. I'm just picking a topic, and I just picked that one. I didn't mean it to be in it. And that's not on there, but it's not on there. Feel free to add it.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, isn't there sort of at the end is a place for your
There-
own comments?
Yeah.
Is it?
So,
Okay,
yeah.
that's really good.
So you just go there with anything like that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Alrighty. All right, Paul, I'll get this to you. You let me know. Oh, he's gone now. Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
yeah, oh jeez, you beat me.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
So this stays, right? The Dover
Yeah.
one stays?
Yeah, read it or don't read it, throw it away, do whatever you want with it.
A lot of print. Look at it all,
Yeah, yeah.
150 pages.
Yeah, and
Killed
this
those
is,
maple
and this
trees.
is, yeah, and I did.
Couple of them,
I did.
waste of
Killer.
paper.
I know it. And just think,
Is that off, are we off?
It is,
there could have been a
Recording
butterfly
stop-
in that
recording
tree.
in
Would have been a
progress.
caterpillar